Hi everybody, I'm Monty,
I'm Missy.
and today we are watching the Sewol Ferry tragedy by the cow. Wait, the cow. Blah,
That 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 that.
words. We are watching the Sewol Ferry tragedy. Coward captain left 350 students to die in a sinking ship.
We're
By
reacting to Rotten Mango.
thank you, and yeah, this one was
Requested.
by the collector and Nishith.
Yeah, and we apologize for our lack of our little chatty people and our normal setup. But we are sequestered in our in another room in our house because the main house AC is not AC in.
Yep.
So we are in.
We're in the coolest room in our house that actually has an AC unit. The rest.
Yeah, so we're doing this from one computer instead of normally we do this from two different rooms.
So you're not going to see our
Um,
little character's mouth moving. And this is Missy's setup, so you can see like the little window that says like, I think it says like now streaming or something like that. You know?
no, it doesn't say no streaming.
Yeah, no, there's like a little tab in there that says now streaming. See?
Okay.
Yeah.
No, this is
But
usually
this is Missy's
yeah,
setup.
because we're using my computer because it was easier to
Unplug.
yeah, because you
Drag.
have yours plugged into a monitor and all of that. So my laptop is just easier to move.
Mm-hmm.
But we are using your microphone though.
We are. I brought
That-
that in. That was easy to unplug.
Yeah, that is an easier setup. So we need to get a better set of plug-in headphones, though.
We do. Because this is the second time we've done this. But hey, you guys get us in the same room today. I hope you can tell which one is talking.
Which one of us is which?
Wait, that sounds like a song. Wait,
From
it like
inadvertent
Mulan?
two.
What? Two. Mulan 2. Exactly.
Yes. That was not how it meant to come out, but I don't control the echolalia, okay? It just comes out. It's the song the princesses sing.
Yes, but I can't remember what it's called.
Like other girls.
Yes.
Like a hands folded perfect, like a lily.
Okay.
Now that earworm is, I don't know, worming or whatever.
It's doing something.
Oh, okay, guys, this one's gonna be heavy. I don't know.
I know, we started with such an upbeat kind of like thing, and this is gonna be a heavy,
guys,
sad
we're lying.
one.
It's not gonna be upbeat.
Yeah, it's gonna be awful. This one.
But okay, so I know that at this point, Micah here has basically seen most of Rotten Mango.
I've seen a good deal of this.
A good deal of them. I haven't.
So this will be a blind react for one of us. I've actually seen bits and pieces of this. I don't know if I finished it, if I'm honest.
If you that bad, huh?
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Is it worse than the babies?
Yes.
Well, actually, I imagine it is worse than.
Yes.
Well,
no, it is.
I mean,
no, it is.
No, it would be.
No, it is.
You know, I always have had a fascination with Titanic. This has nothing to do with Titanic except it's a boat accident.
This does not feel Titanic-y. I promise you, it's not Titanic-y. God, we're not even watching this video.
At this point. We're gonna have to redo our intro, I think, because we're 18 minutes in.
Nah, I just re-edit it. I just edit it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, we're actually going to be starting at like 18.
You don't realize I listen to this entire thing most of the time.
I am so sorry.
Yeah, I listen to our ramblings. Sometimes I even fast forward through them to be like, nope, we're still chatting. We're still
chatting.
going.
All right, let's just do this. So
Okay.
I know nothing about this. Monty probably didn't finish it.
I made it about halfway through, maybe a little bit more than halfway through. I made it to about the point that the parents realized they weren't going to get the help they wanted. And then I turned it off.
All right, guys. I'm probably going to be bringing up Titanic a lot because that's my main
I
frame of...
guarantee you, you will not.
I will not.
You will not.
Well,
because it's not.
It's not any...
Well, it is, but it isn't.
Well, that's my only frame of reference for, like, famous boat accidents, okay?
Wasn't there, like, a famous boat ship a couple of years ago that got stuck in the canal?
Yeah, I mean, but I don't pay much attention to that one.
Either.
I mean, I've been obsessed with Titanic since I was, like, 13?
Wow, you started old.
Well, that's when the movie came out. Anyway, I'm sorry, guys. We're avoiding.
Okay. This one's going to be rough, you guys. So I'm going to go ahead and press play and we'll just ease into it. She's really good about telling a story. We're all going to be upset together unless you've already left us, in which case, fair.
Oh, hey, guys.
No.
One more quick thing. So...
I went to go press play and she won't let me.
What? It might be something else we react to at some point in the future. Like, if y'all don't know, the girl who does Rotten Mango has gotten in on the P. Diddy trial.
Oh, she's already done, like, 3 P. Diddy videos.
But, I mean, like...
Actually, her P. Diddy videos are really good. And I was like, ooh! Oh,
yeah. So like, if that is something, because I don't know, guys, that's a lot. But like, she actually is one of the like reporter people for
yeah, she couldn't take in her phone or nothing. So we just have to wait for her to come out and tell us literally nothing about it.
Because she can't right now. But as soon as she can, guys.
But she's written down 17 pages. At least according to her last TikTok on the trial.
Oh, yeah. That could be a thing. This is just easier.
Okay, can I press play now?
We are in the one, well, just a lead bitter melon. No. Yeah, our AC's dead-ish. And I've had a cold. I'm feeling better now. And, yeah, we're good.
Okay, I can press play now?
You can press play now.
Are you sure?
No.
Okay. I'm gonna press play.
I'm sorry, but the title alone is like...
I literally go to reach for the mouse and she continues.
Okay, all joking aside, go ahead.
Okay. Girly pop.
I'm sorry.
This is why we can't stream from the same room. We were at the 18-minute mark. Now we're at 24 minutes. This is not going to work out. All right.
I lost my headphone.
Oh, you did. Okay, here you go. Okay, you guys. I am going to go ahead and press play.
I'm so sorry, guys.
Okay. So, we're going to start it. Again, it is the Sewol Ferry tragedy, and 350 people died.
Students
died. In a sinking ship.
Children.
This one's heavy, you guys.
Extremely heavy.
Okay.
This is going to be a long one, and it's going to be a tough one.
That's what I just said,
We're talking
Stephanie.
about this Sewol tragedy, the sinking of the Sewol boat. Now, 2 16-year-old students from Tanwon High School, they made headlines. There were some rumors that they were dating. There were some rumors that said, no, they were just close friends. But most of the students that knew both of them personally said they barely knew each other.
Aww.
I don't even think that they had a class together. Most kids said that was the extent of their interaction, just passing each other in the hallways. Yet the two of them found each other alone in a room, in a boat, terrified. I mean, they're watching the water starting to pool on the ground, and they didn't know what to do. I'm sure they were frantic. I'm sure that there were a lot of things going on in their minds. I'm sure that they were trying to comfort each other. But eventually, everything goes black. A civilian diver would later find both their bodies alone in that room, and their life jacket cords were still tied together.
Aww.
He remembers how he had to separate them because he physically couldn't bring up 2 bodies at once. And he recognized that in their last moments, maybe these 2 kids knew each other. Maybe they didn't. But in their last moments, they didn't want to be alone. So they tied the strings of their life jackets together till the very end. And he said, I started crying, thinking that I didn't want to separate them, but I had to. He said it was one of the hardest rescue dives that he had ever endured in his entire life. He would never forget some of the stuff that was seen. Other students from the same high school, Tanwan High School, faced similar fates. A female student was seen throwing a chair at a window, a glass window, and she's hurling this chair with as much force as she can muster. She would go as far back as she could, and then she would throw it with all of her strength, and it would just clunk onto the
High
window
school or
and
junior
fall
high?
back down.
It's high school.
She wasn't
High school,
angry, but
okay.
there was just pure desperation in her eyes. She could see on the very other side of this window were rescuers. They saw her, she saw them, and they did nothing but stare at her.
What? Why?
We're going to get into it. I mean, this rescue, I don't even think you can call it a rescue. She
Okay.
realized that these people, these rescuers, they're not here to save her.
So you paused at a really awkward spot.
All the
That's
That's
better.
fine.
So, okay, at least on Titanic they were trying.
Yes, but on Titanic, it was like hours after everybody even hit the water.
Yes, but that's only because, the Californian was like, we're not paying attention to you.
I think he went to sleep.
Yes, but they were also ignoring, because earlier they had ignored iceberg warnings from them,
Well,
and
the
they had
Titanic
said
was,
stop.
yeah.
Well, the Titanic ignored their warnings, but they were spamming, and they were using SOS instead of normal, and they didn't quite recognize it, and they were like, I think, and then they're like, would you stop spamming me? And then he took his headset off
And went to bed.
and went to bed.
And went to bed.
And they were like 10 miles away. They were still a smaller ship, but they could have done something. But the Carpathia was honestly the closest, and yeah, they were like 4 hours away. But they somehow, that little ship hauled ass and going faster than they've ever gone in that ship's entire life to get there faster.
Yeah, you guys just
Nobody-
remember that hauled ass and attempt to rescue. There's a difference between attempting to rescue and being too late.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna press play.
So I'm guessing the rescuers in this are the Californian.
Well, she is just like throwing a chair at a window, and the rescuers on the other side are just staring at her.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
people that she thought would be responsible for her safety, the captain of the boat, the rescue teams from the Korean National Coast Guard, they all abandoned her. They were watching her through the window, and it was very clear to her in her last moments that she was being left to die. Imagine these are the very last realizations that you have in your life.
But the question is
April
why?
16th, 2014, the Sewol ferry capsized off the coast of South Korea. There were 476 passengers. Most of them were high school students around the age of 16 years old from the same high school. They were on their way to Jeju Island when their boat started sinking on one side.
It must have been a really big school,
when a
too.
giant boat that carries 500 passengers, when it starts
In-
sinking, it's not something that goes unnoticed.
In any high school, 300 students is going to be most of your student body.
Yeah. Well, for like one class, this is for like one class. So like senior
Oh.
or junior
Oh,
or
I guess you make a good point.
I think I'm not sure, but like if they're 16, is that your junior year?
Okay, well, I don't know about in Korea, but in Japan, okay, so I'm going to use Sailor Moon as a reference. Probably not the best reference, but she was 16 when she was starting what essentially is high school.
Oh, okay. So it might be the same
the
there in
upper-
Korea.
So, secondary school or, I don't know what they call it.
Okay, you're muttering.
I don't know what they call it. Sorry.
Yeah.
Noticed, nor is it something that happens very quickly. Soon, nearby boats and vessels and even countries start giving out lending helping hands. The Japanese Coast Guard asked if South Korea required assistance because they were right there. The U.S. Navy had a massive vessel stationed nearby and offered to rush to the scene to help with rescue efforts. South Korea denied all of their requests. They told news outlets that they had everything under control, that they were operating a full-scale rescue operation, and that majority of the passengers had already been rescued off the boat,
You guys
and they're
should see
being rushed to
Missy's
safety.
face right now.
Wow.
South Korea told the world, hey, guys,
I'm sorry, South Korea. What the fuck?
Yeah, they had people ready to go.
They had all of these ships saying, I want to go, let us help. And they're like, no, we got this. In fact, we've already rescued them. And we're 3 minutes into this.
Yeah,
4 minutes almost.
yeah.
Okay.
these are our kids, and we're going to do everything to save our kids. But that could not have
What,
been
in the
further
Hunger
from the
Games?
truth. The Sewol Ferry tragedy in South Korea would lead to the deaths of over 250 high school students, over 300 lives in total. It would lead to the president being impeached, the prime minister resigning, the Korean Coast Guard being disbanded, multiple high-profile arrests, a billionaire suspicious suicide, a helicopter crash, hunger strikes, and a vice president.
I'm sorry. A helicopter crash too?
Yeah, apparently, hunger strikes. A lot of different people are losing jobs left and right. Missy's getting why this is so infuriating. Yes, yes. This is one I had to, like, walk away from. So, you know it's gonna be bad, you guys, because I have a pretty big, thick skin. So.
Yeah, I mean, okay, guys, like, I watch true crime documentaries to go to bed to.
Yeah.
So, like, I literally, like, murder is my lullaby.
This is no
This
lullaby.
is...
This isn't gonna be a lullaby.
Although I could sleep to her voice. She's got a very
She's
soothing
got
voice.
such a beautiful voice.
Very soothing.
Principal of a high school found hanging from a tree in the woods, dead. So let's get into the tragedy.
Dead.
Full show notes are available at rottenmangopodcast.com. There's a South Korean news outlet called Newstapa, which you're like, I've never heard of this. I've heard of like SBS and NBC. Newstapa worked closely with the victims' families and their attorneys from the get-go. They had so much information on this tragedy that was being suppressed by mainstream news. They were the only ones that were standing up when everyone else was silent. It's estimated and kind of surmised that without them, most of the evidence, most of these testimonies would have been completely lost. They would have never been used.
Let's go news.
So that was my primary source because they worked directly with the families to get the truth out there. And, you know, this isn't just a tragedy.
just
It's a
here for
full-scale
the
cover-up
chat.
with
Doesn't
the president, the most powerful person in that country, working with the media. So please go show support to Newstapa if you can. And with that being said, let's get into it.
Okay. Before we get into it, can we talk about how adorable her hair and outfit is?
I know. She's so cute.
I adore her outfit and the ribbons in her hair, and like I just that is so nice, so wholesome, unlike this story.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Also, I really like her microphone setup. Someday, guys. Someday.
Of Tanwan High School are getting bombarded with calls. Phone calls, text messages, voice memos, pictures are being sent to them. And it was like a parent's worst nightmare. Think about your 16-year-old kid aboard a boat on a school field trip, and they're sending you cryptic text messages like, Mom, I'm sending you this because I'm scared I might not be able to say it later. But I love you.
Okay, so we don't have teenagers or anything, but we do live in America.
Yes. And I did used to work in a school.
You did.
This was always like my biggest fear.
I did
as like
not
a
have
teacher
that.
or a teacher's aide.
I did not have that fear for you until after Sandy Hook.
You didn't? Yeah.
No, because you worked at a private school. You worked. It went up to 8th grade, but like
Yeah.
But after Sandy Hook, no, I was more afraid for you.
Yeah.
Because even if it was a private school, at other private schools, it was like, no, that's
a different circumstance and different situations,
but
you can
same,
definitely put yourself in those shoes.
Yes, because I can just imagine if something like that had happened and you sent me a text.
Yeah.
You know, and like, no. So like I can, like it's completely different, but I can still, the feelings. Situation is different, but the feelings could be the same. I can imagine how those parents would feel.
Yeah.
In that type of situation.
You're like, what's going on? You're like on a field trip. Another kid sent...
Okay, but you also have to think of it from here in America, that's just reality. No. But in another country, that situation is not a reality.
Yeah. They literally went on a field trip.
Yeah, they went on a field trip.
And they were supposed to be safe and sound by the people that were supposed to protect them. You know? Yeah.
Like that time we were in the tornado at the movie theater, and the staff did not assist in any way, shape, or form.
I know. That one was...
Hope we can meet again alive. Another student said, if I've wronged any of you guys, please forgive me. The parents start freaking out, but they're told by their kids that, hey, Mom, Dad, the boat is sinking, but rescue efforts are on their way. I think everyone's got it under control. They told us to stay in our cabins and put on our life jackets. Many parents told their kids, okay, well, stick with your friends. Don't be alone. Don't wander out alone. And good, that's good. They have everything under control. Just keep calm and do what they say. Do what they...
Oh.
Yes.
I already hate it.
Yeah. Keep calm and do what they say. But isn't that what you tell all your students during a crisis?
Yes, that's what you tell them.
During a crisis, to keep calm and follow instructions.
That school, Pew Pew here in Texas.
Yeah.
A few years ago.
Yeah.
Where they didn't get in.
Yeah.
That reminds me.
Yeah, actually, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll see a lot of that here.
Because they didn't get in, they didn't go in, and...
They just kind of waited.
They just kind of waited.
Yeah.
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 And, that's...
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's actually a really good...
Oh, God, I'm not going to be able to... I'm going to cry with this one, I think.
Probably.
And I like babies. To them,
everything will be okay. These words will haunt the parents forever. A lot of them couldn't even face living with the guilt because so many children would die from listening to what they said, from listening to what the captain told them to do.
Because that's just what you do as a kid.
Yeah, that is what you do as a kid.
You tell them, okay, stay here, wait for help.
Listen to the adults.
Listen to the adults. If you get lost in a store, they tell you to go find an employee.
Yeah.
You know,
or
if you're lost,
or
go
to
look for,
stay where you
you
are
are
and wait for an adult to find you.
That too.
Yeah.
As a little kid, I had a Sesame Street book that was Ernie, and Ernie got lost. This was before Elmo was like a huge thing, guys. So. Okay, so I had this Sesame Street book, and it was Elmo and Maria, who isn't on Sesame Street anymore. I think she's retired, but this would have been like the early 90s. And she basically told Ernie, if you ever get lost, these are the things you need to do. You need to look for a responsible adult. Then I got lost in a Minyards, actually, not too long after I got that book. It's basically a grocery store. So I was looking at something, and my dad had kept walking, and I was about 6. And so I remembered what Ernie did in the book. And Ernie went and found an employee, and they paged Maria. That we have your Ernie.
Yeah.
Never mind that Ernie, I think it may be actually an adult Muppet, but whatever. It was just, you know, an educational thing. And so that's what I did, is I I like went to the front of the store and I went up to one of the checkout counters and I'm like, I can't find my daddy. I got lost.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, what's your name? And I'm like, my name's Missy. And they're like, do you know your daddy's name? And I'm like, no.
No.
As I don't, I learned his name after that though.
Smart. Smart.
Which I should have known my dad's name because it's the same as my brother's name.
You should have.
But they're like, you know, they did ask me my last name, and they're like, Mr. We have a Missy up here at checkout such and such, and honestly, I think I might have panicked more if I hadn't had that little book.
Yeah.
But like, we tell our kids, you know, find an authority figure. You trust the authority figures
And
to be able to
listen to them. Yeah.
listen to them, you know.
I don't know if this one would constitute as a bystander effect.
That's true. Because it sounds like there was a lot of people who were willing to jump in there and help. And
yeah, because if you think about it, like this Japan was nearby, and they
America.
were like, and Japan was nearby. They were like, hey, we can help, and Korea was like, nah, we can handle it. And they're like, okay, well, they'll handle it and walk away, or swim away, sail away, whatever.
Sail away, sail away,
Sail away. And then America comes by, and they're like, hey, we can help, and then Korea's like, nah, we can do it.
No, we got this under control.
Then what happens with Korea is it like, oh, well, somebody else will handle it, or somebody else will do it, but you're the Coast Guard. What do you mean somebody else might do it?
Why aren't you doing it, Coast Guard? Why aren't you doing it?
We haven't even, we're 7 minutes in, and we're already questioning this.
Questioning it so much.
The ferry sank April 16th of 2014, but the story starts the day before, on April 15th of 2014.
Okay.
So the students at...
Okay.
Girl. We just pressed play.
Do you know what day Titanic sank?
No.
April 14th, 1912.
A day later.
Yeah, but like right around the same time. You gotta admit, that's an interesting coincidence.
A day later.
Actually, no, it sank on April
2 days later.
April 14th, April...
A day later. Technically, it sank 2 days later, because this is the day before.
April 15th, 1912. I'm sorry, I heard the line from the movie, and that was when Jack drew the picture, was April 14th, 1912.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
So then this is the day.
And so the problems start the day before. They start the same day the Titanic sank, guys.
Like years later, though. Years later. It wasn't the same day.
No, but 102 years later.
I said it wasn't going to remind you of Titanic, and you're over here spouting dates.
Guys, she's literally starting. It started on April 15th. That's the day the Titanic sank.
Yeah, but they're not sinking.
Well, they're going to sink on the 16th, but I'm just saying.
Tanwon High School, this is like their annual trip to Jeju Island. They considered it a rite of passage, like a tradition for everyone. Every single high school student it's the sophomore class.
Sophomore,
they're so excited for this because, for one, their parents aren't going to be there. It's just their class and a couple of teachers. And I mean, just imagine the adrenaline and all this planning that goes into something like this. Any inconvenience that...
Did you know that there's a Titanic museum in the area now?
We have got to go see the Titanic Museum.
Yeah. I don't know when they leave, but they're in the area at the moment.
Day that would have otherwise bothered the crap out of them, it didn't bother them anymore. I mean, they were waiting in line for hours at the port of Incheon, which is also where the international airport is. So Jeju Island is like the Hawaii of South Korea, and Incheon is actually on the northern side of South Korea. And they would get on a boat, go all the way down the left coast of South Korea, and then get into the ocean, the Yellow Sea a little bit, and then they'll hit a tiny little island called Jeju Island. It is the biggest destination spot for South Koreans. It's beautiful. It's like a cultural mecca. There's so much, there's a lot of fun stuff to do there.
Oh
so
my God.
Yes, Jeju Island. even when their ferry is delayed for 2.5 hours because of foggy conditions, they're like, that's fine. Are you kidding? Nothing is going to ruin this trip. This is the best trip of my life. It's a 300-mile trip by ferry. It takes 14 hours.
14
But thankfully,
hours.
they would be going down the coast of Korea most of the time, the left side of the coast. So they're going to have cell service.
It's like taking a
you know,
train.
and it was outfitted like a cruise ship, meaning that there's dorm rooms with bunk beds. There's communal showers, a convenience store, a cafeteria, you know, which for high schoolers, this sounds like a blast. Because they had cell
Yeah,
service,
no,
a lot of them were able to
seriously.
reach out to their
Like, okay, that sounds like a freaking fun time.
Yeah,
Even just
exactly.
the 14-hour boat ride.
Oh, the boat ride itself is half the vacation.
Right?
That's so fun.
I mean, you have, like, maybe only a couple of teachers, like, you just have a few adult supervisors, and then, like, you're basically, like,
you got
got
like a gift
bunk,
shop.
you
You
got-
can go sleep.
you can go buy
hang
snacks,
out,
you can
get
just,
food.
like, kind of chill. Like, no, that sounds like a damn good time.
families, and those very phones would later document some of their last moments on board. There were 476 people on board the ferry, including the crew. Now, they board the ferry at 9 p.m. They were supposed to board 2.5 hours earlier, but like I said, a delay. It's not that bad. I mean, the ferry is filled with 325 high school students, 14 teachers, 29 crew members, and about 100 or so other passengers. So these passengers are going to Jeju either on their own for vacation, or there were a lot of truck drivers. So they go and they get cargo off from
Truck
this same
drivers,
boat,
that makes
and they
sense.
drive it around Jeju. Then they get their truck back onto the boat and come back to Seoul, and it's like a back and forth, right?
Oh, but
So-
that's
Sounds like
so
a
fun.
huge boat.
Oh yeah, it's a massive boat. Here, can you pass me my iPad? I'm gonna show you pictures.
So you're saying there's not only people but also like vehicles on there.
Oh, so many vehicles, and it's
Oh,
actually
I was gonna say,
Oh, okay.
okay, so, like, I've never actually been on a ferry, but I've, like, seen pictures of ferries.
Yeah.
And, like, I've read books about ferries. That sounds so...
I've read books about fairies too, and like
Okay,
with their wings.
Okay, like, but, like, okay, so, like,
in the Feywild.
No.
Sorry.
Okay, but, like, okay, I read this romance novel once years ago, and it was an island that was in Washington State near it was like Washington State and like Vancouver, kind of that area, which I know are two separate countries, but like there's area.
You stopped this video to tell us about a romance novel?
No, I'm getting to my point.
Okay.
There were boats, not boats, I mean, the whole thing is a boat, but people would put their cars, they would like commute to work, driving, and then getting on the ferry, and then driving the rest of the way to work. So they would have like a whole bunch of cars on the ferry, so that's not an uncommon thing.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think there's like you can take ferries in America too.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
But we just don't
You
have
don't
any
have to
ferries.
go to a fancy island to take a ferry.
Oh,
We just don't live in an area where there would be a ferry necessary. But if you went up to like New York or something,
Well,
ferries.
yeah, you have to take there's bridges, although that was... Oh, that's a whole nother thing we could talk about, another thing.
Oh, the 9/11 ferry.
Yeah.
boat. There's a video we could react to on that.
Ooh.
It's it got Tom Hanks in the
Wow.
Is it Tom Hanks? I think it's Tom Hanks. Yeah, in as the narrator.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Alright, but anyway, yeah, so, like, ferries have cars.
a cargo ship. This is a cargo ship that loads on passengers on the side. The Sewol ferry, if you want to get technical, is 75% profits from cargo movement and 25% profits from carrying of passengers.
Oh, okay.
Most of the pictures you're going to find
Yeah.
now are of it sinking, but here is it before it sank.
Oh.
Oh wow, it's like a
Like a cruise ship.
Yeah, like
It
a
looks
cruise
like
ship.
a
Yes,
Wow.
cruise ship.
it's
Yeah.
massive. So, I mean, a lot of these truck drivers were not very excited.
And we've been to Galveston.
Mm-hmm.
You've been on a cruise ship.
I've been on a cruise ship.
I never have. been on a boat that belonged to my cousin to fish. That's like the most boat I've ever been on. Oh no, that's not true. We did the dolphin thing in Galveston.
Yes, we did the dolphin
So
thing
I've been
in
on.
Galveston.
I've been on. Oh,
You-
and then I did a
but
boat,
that-
like a sunset cruise in Hawaii. So I've been on a few boats,
Yeah,
but nothing that big. But
yeah.
when you go to Galveston, that's where a lot of from here in Texas. That's where a lot of cruise ships take off from, and those things are massive.
Yes.
Like absolutely massive. Like the Titanic could never.
That they got onto the ferry with a bunch of high schoolers, but these same truck drivers would help try and save a lot of these students later. So it's not like the high school bought out the entire ferry, nor was it a ferry that belonged to the school. There's a lot of people on here. So all 476 people, including the crew, they board the ferry and they start their journey. Now, the night of the 15th was pretty calm. Okay, so this is a picture that the kids posted or taken by one of the victims. Just of them boarding during the fight. And it just looks like they're so excited. And nothing climactic happens, which is good. Dinner is served. There's fireworks that are launched from the deck. And there's pictures of that too. At night, the
that's
passengers,
pretty.
they all go to sleep in their cabins. Now, the high school was pretty good about booking rooms on one level for all of the boy students. And then for the girl students upstairs, right? So they had different levels. They all go to sleep around 11-ish, and the next
No
morning,
PDAs.
No
at around
PDAs.
11 a.m., they should be arriving in Jeju Island. So it's like you go to sleep, you wake up, you have breakfast, and 11 a.m., you're at Jeju. They're so excited for this. Now,
Okay, so where
7:30
did it go
a.m.
bad?
is when everything starts to slowly unravel.
Oh, thank you.
Helsman Cho
answered it
and
so
Third
quickly.
Mate Park. So these are
That
two of the
works.
people that are going to be steering the boat now. They take over for the shift so the overnight crew can go into their cabins and take a nap or go to sleep. The helmsman is the person who's going to be steering and driving the ship, if you will. So Helmsman Cho, he's at the bridge, which is basically like the cockpit of the boat. And he's, doing all these commands. And the captain was off duty in his room.
Okay, so the bridge is the driving room.
Yes.
Okay.
30 minutes later, around 8 a.m., breakfast is served in the cafeteria for all the passengers, the crew, and anybody else. 8:20 a.m., autopilot is switched off to manual steering.
Oh.
Autopilot off, manual steering on. Just 7 minutes later, this Sewol is sailing through the Mengol Channel. Now, the Mengol Channel is very pertinent to this story. There are other routes to take to get to Jeju without going through this particular channel. I mean, it really only saves like 7 miles off of your trip, but this channel it's not some sort of urban legend where ships go missing and it's like a terrifying place. It is a commonly used route, but it's not calm. It's not that safe. It's a little unpredictable. It is actually has one
Okay,
of
so
the
you have
most
to be
rapid and
skilled to go through
unpredictable
there.
currents in the Korean peninsula.
Okay.
It's got these tidal
So it's not quite Bermuda Triangle, but it's not. It's a wild ride.
Apparently, there's currents
Okay.
that make it more difficult.
shifts, meaning that you have to be super, super careful when you're passing through this channel. Some areas of the channel have rock hazards. Some random areas have shallow waters. But Sewol was traveling through a part where it was pretty calm. Conditions were relatively calm. Even CCTV footage shows kids and truck drivers socializing on deck, finishing up their breakfast. Most of the kids were still asleep in their cabins, if I'm being honest, because, it's very early. As of 8:40
They get a
a.m.,
chance to sleep
everything
in.
is going
Yeah.
well. Students are busy. Passengers are busy avoiding the students. Crew members are busy working. Within 9 minutes, everything would change.
9 minutes.
8:49 a.m. Two crew members that were in charge of steering the ship decide to manually steer the ship 15 degrees to the left.
Okay.
Which is a well-known fact to all crew members aboard this Sewol that they cannot steer this particular vessel more than 5 degrees in any direction,
Okay, so we went
mainly
10
because of the
degrees over.
amount of cargo it was holding. So why did this Sewol
Oh.
ferry?
Is it going to flip over?
I won't tell.
I think it's going to flip over
I won't tell.
because it's bottom heavy, but they turn it too much. It's like it's like they tell you in an SUV because it's a roll risk.
Yeah.
That's what I think is going to happen.
Even start to sink. This Sewol was known, like I said, to be a cargo ship. 25% of their profits were just from passengers. So being incredibly irresponsible and greedy, they would almost every single time load way more cargo than was legally allowed.
So we're over the
It
weight
caused
capacity.
massive dangerous conditions on the boat. And when they made this sharp turn, which is supposed to only be 5 degrees to the left, they went 15 degrees. And none of this cargo, none of these cars, they had almost 200 vehicles on this cargo ship. All of them slammed to the left
my God.
because none of them are being tied down.
Wait, why would
Side
none
note-
of them be tied down? That does not make any sense.
I don't know. Sometimes they just don't tie shit down. They don't always tie down cars and stuff.
I mean, I'm not a big ship person, but I'm pretty sure you're supposed to... Because, like, what happens if there's, like, a big wave or something, and it causes, like, a little bit of some rocking and turbulence, like you're on an airplane turbulence, and one of your cars ends up leaning a little bit too heavy and hitting another car, and then you have damage, and then you have insurance issues. Maybe I'm wrong on that. I don't know. Yes.
When you read official reports, it'll read that the boat was listing 30 degrees to port. Now, what that means, and this is from online research, I'm not like a boat girl. I'm actually terrified of cruises, but listing, when a boat is listing, it means that it's leaning to the left. Not going to the left, but leaning to the left. When it says listing to port, it means to the left. When it says listing to starboat, it means listing to the
Starboard.
right.
You said listing how much degree?
30 degrees.
30 degrees. That's a
Yes.
lot.
30 degrees. And not to confuse it with trimming, okay? Just a little quick, I guess,
I don't
boat lesson.
understand
But
anything
trimming
she's
is when the
saying.
ship tips forward or backward. And then rolling is when a ship is moving from side to side trying to find balance.
Okay.
So these are terms that you'll see a lot in the official reports. At one point, it was rolling to try and find balance, but ultimately, it was listing to the left, 30 degrees. None of this is great, but 30 degrees list doesn't mean capsizing. It doesn't automatically mean it. And it gets technical, but I'm going to try and describe it as best as possible.
You can do it.
If the cargo had been tied down, it probably might have balanced the boat back out.
See,
The boat
what'd
might
we
have
say?
rolled and then eventually become stable again. Now, even if it didn't become stable again, there is something called ballast
Okay.
water.
But
Okay, this is going to get very technical.
imagine a truck full of 18-wheelers. You're not necessarily going to be able to tie down a bunch of 18-wheelers.
I'm sure you could tie down 18-wheelers. I mean, I could be wrong on this, but, like...
It does seem like you should be able to.
There should be, like, there's obviously security protocol. You would think you would tie down 18-wheelers. I don't know how effective tying down an 18-wheeler would be, you know?
It sounds like this is just a bunch of half-ass cutting corners, not wanting to do the things that they're supposed to be doing. Because they were like, if people are only 25% of their profits and cargo is 75% of their profits, they usually put something around the tires to prevent movement, aka locking the wheels in place.
Makes sense.
Okay, see, that makes sense.
Yeah.
All boats want to have a low center of gravity. The parts closest to the water needs to be the center of gravity. So did you know most boats are filled with water? It sounds counterintuitive, but it's something called ballast water, which is
That
just
makes
to
sense.
bring the center of gravity, right?
Yeah.
They had like no ballast water. The center of gravity was at the top of the boat.
Uh-oh.
Why? Oh, so they can load more cars.
Yes. So there's no way that this boat
my
is gonna fix itself, balance itself out. No way.
But, like,
Let me show
why?
you some footage.
So they have
know-
more room?
So yes, because if they have to fill certain compartments with water, they can't fill them with cargo.
Is it like a weight capacity thing? Like, if they have the
No,
weight
the
of
water,
the water
the water
removed?
in the middle, it
Well, I don't think
balance-
you can put it in the tanks.
no, but I mean I don't know exactly how they work.
Well, I was
but
wondering if you just put the water in where the water ballast thing goes. I don't know ships. That much amount of water. I mean, think about a gallon of water and how heavy that is. Now, think about really big ships.
Gallons.
If you remove the water, you can add more weight in cargo.
Yeah. That
So,
could be it too.
yeah.
Because if they can fit more in, but the problem is that it's not balanced.
Yes, because all that weight would be at the top, like she just said, instead of at the bottom.
Which is where they would have the water.
The water weight.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Are you good, Pop?
Andre? What's up? You woke up.
Hi. What?
You go potty?
You need to go take a potty? You're just licking me. Why are you looking at me like that? It's a weight capacity thing. If there's too much water, the ship would be deeper in and might not be able to move.
Oh, okay.
I can envision it as, sometimes you throw a bowl on the water, it will float. And then I'm just imagining filling that bowl to the brim of sinking and floating.
Yes.
So it's like anything moves, it will start sink.
Precisely. That's literally what this boat is doing. This is from Black Box when the boat leaned initially.
I want to see the picture. Stephanie.
So this is also
picture.
why it's so pertinent that when you're aboard a boat or a plane, they're tying down all the cargo. That's why they're so particular about it. If you've ever brought your car on a boat, they tie it down. So all of this cargo, all of these vehicles slam to the left, and this boat is not going to balance out. This boat is 100% going to capsize, meaning it's going to sink. Now, the water is very cold in April. It was about 54 degrees Fahrenheit. It only takes 10 minutes for you to start feeling the effects of hypothermia. You're not going to die in 10 minutes, but most of the time. But you start feeling loss of dexterity. Your fingers go numb. You're starting to, your teeth are clattering. And full-blown hypothermia happens after about 2 hours. So right at this moment, the boat leans, and the engines of the boat are cut. The off-duty Captain Lee Chun-seok, he starts running. He's like, I gotta figure out what's going on. Some crew members also run to the bridge of the boat, and they're like, what's going on? Now, they're trying to assess the situation. And when a boat this size starts to list or even starts sinking, it's not like an earthquake. Not every single passenger is going to jerk up and go, we need to evacuate this boat.
Like, honestly,
Isn't that what happened in the Titanic?
yeah, they were like, oh, what was that?
Like a little bit of
They're like-
turbulence.
What was that? Guess it's not a big deal. And that's also why they were like, also thinking it wasn't a big deal with the Titanic sinking. And they were
Yeah.
like, that's why there were so many people who didn't want to leave their rooms. They're like, why am I going to get dressed and go up there where it's cold? And I can
Yeah.
just stay here in my room because we're on an unsinkable ship.
Right.
You know, except for steerage.
It feels dangerous, but it almost feels like turbulence on a plane. You feel like, okay, I need to wait it out and it's going to be fine. You never really hit turbulence and you're like, this plane is going down. So that's kind of how everyone was feeling except for the crew because they knew better. 8:52 a.m., just 2 minutes after the boat starts leaning to the left about 30 degrees, an emergency call is made by a student, Choi Tok-ha. Choi reported that the Sewol was starting to capsize.
so young.
He was the first 911 call.
They're
And
like
that the water was
16.
coming into the decks. He's like, something's going on. I'm on the decks and this is dangerous. He was one of the few that understood the severity of the situation, and he was probably confused because he could hear ringing through the PA system, like the intercom system, the speakers on the boats. Do not move, just stay where you are. It's dangerous if you move, stay where you are.
Ah.
Every single student and passenger was told to stay put. And now, all hell breaks loose. Crew members are calling so many different people. There's the Jeju Vessel Traffic Service, Korean Coast Guard, Jeju Coast Guard, Mokpo Coast Guard Station, their company executives. There's so many different people that this communication system is just bonkers. The fact that they don't have a system in place of like, if an emergency happens, this is who I call, is crazy to me. Nobody was getting...
They need to have like an emergency protocol. Why didn't they have an emergency protocol?
That's what the people at the Titanic said. And honestly, after Titanic, it did result in, because it always takes a freaking tragedy in order for them to be able to put protocols and things in place. Regulations are written in blood.
Ooh, that is a line, you guys. That is
Unfortunately,
a line.
protocol
That's
doesn't
deep.
mean much if people don't follow it. That is also true. That is also very, very true.
Yep. It's like the
Yeah.
I will edit that out because we're not going to say nothing bad about that company, but they are horrible in tornadoes.
At least that location was.
They are horrible in tornadoes. That day, the tornado, we're not going to go too much into detail. There were 5 of them.
Uh-huh.
And they wanted us all to leave and drive home when there were 5 of them.
Yes. And they're like, there's more coming. And we're like, oh, that was a whole story, guys. I've heard tornadoes do some crazy things.
Oh,
I've heard
sure.
stories.
The one that almost hit us while we were, and almost hit the... It went down the road and then hopped on the freeway.
Yeah. So, tornadoes can do crazy things. Like, a house...
And then got off at the next road over.
Yeah, it, got on the freeway, guys, and then got off at the next exit and just kept its path of destruction.
I'm telling you, they just drive.
But I've heard stories of, one house being demolished, and the house right across the street...
nothing to do with the tragedy we're
and
watching.
the house across the street being completely untouched, or even, the house being destroyed, but, there sits a bill or whatever on a table that is completely untouched.
Dude, our car was fine. It was missing a mirror. The car next to us moved up 2 rows.
And that's why we were missing the mirror.
That's why we were missing the mirror. It wasn't there anymore. It was up 2
It
rows
was.
and sideways.
But our car was otherwise fine, except it got sideswiped by the car moving. Yeah.
I like her hair and her sweater. I want that sweater. I like
That
the little
dress?
princess. Is it a dress or a
I
sweater?
think it's a dress.
But
It
I
might be
like
a sweater.
the princess puffs on her sweater. You know, the little
Puff
gather?
sleeves.
Puff
Puff sleeves.
The
Yes.
princess puff sleeves on the top.
I
The little
l-
gather at the top.
Just like Anna Green Gables, puff sleeves.
Sure, I've never read Anna Green Gables or seen Anna Green Gables.
I have got to track down the 1980.
I'm gonna press play now.
Anything done.
I press
So much
play.
time initially is wasted in these key moments. At 9:07 a.m., the crew confirmed to authorities the ferry is capsizing, and they confirmed that they needed help from the Korean Coast Guard. They stated the ship's angle made evacuation impossible. Now,
Now what? This one's not on me, guys.
It's such a weird mood to go from that to this. Okay, that's why I'm laughing. I'm sorry. We're good. We're good.
Oh, good grief. Are you good?
Yes, I'm good. I'm
Get
good.
it out of your system. I don't know what's wrong with us, guys.
Yes,
We're
you do.
too well. Yeah, I do know what's wrong with us.
Okay.
here's where it gets crazy. Allegedly, none of these
This is where it gets crazy.
Apparently, it wasn't crazy beforehand.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
authorities knew that there were 500 passengers on this, well, close to 500 passengers on this boat. That's what they claim. I don't believe it for a second, but that's what they claim.
Wait, who claimed that?
That
All
they
the
didn't
Coast
know
Guards,
there were
yeah.
500
No one told
passengers?
us. We just thought it was the crew. We thought it was a cargo ship. Get out of here,
What?
because the Sewol was well known to be a passenger cargo ship.
Oh, they just
So
thought there
they
was
say
only
the ferry is
crew.
about to roll.
No, that's what they said.
Okay,
That's
I
what
understand.
the Coast Guard said. Oh, we just thought it was the we just thought it was the crew.
Then why
but-
did they sit there watching that girl try to break open the
But
window?
it's a lie.
Well,
Because this is
clearly.
a well-known
Well, clearly.
passenger cargo ship.
Over, meaning it was listing to the left, but because it was taking in so much water, it was practically bonk flat onto the left, and now it was going to flip over and capsize.
Wow.
So it's not even sinking just to the bottom like this. It's going to be completely inverted.
Oh, I saw a Titanic
The bottom is
one
going to
of
be the
this.
top. The Coast Guard tells the crew on
There was a movie called Poseidon's Adventure, or Poseidon something like that. And that was the name of the ship. And that's what the ship did. And you are following a group of people who are trying to make it across the
There
ship.
was a movie, but I don't remember if it was called Poseidon's Adventure. I do remember that, like, they were in the dining hall when it happened, and it flipped over, and then they were trying to make it across the ship to go out the bottom.
That might actually be the same movie.
Same movie!
This one was made in, like, the 70s-ish.
Oh, no. This one was a lot sooner.
Okay.
This one was, like,
Maybe it was a remake.
2000?
Maybe it was a remake.
Maybe.
Actually, I do think they remade that. So it may have been a remake.
I watched the remake. You watched
I
the
watched the
OG.
original. Yeah,
Cool,
I watched
cool.
it with Dad. Actually, it was on.
I don't even think you can go out through the bottom then.
I don't.
Is that an inaccurate depiction?
They may have had like some way.
I don't know. I
don't
just
know.
remember they were on some sort of beam or platform and a girl fell to her death.
The Poseidon Adventure. Yes. The original was 1972 and then a remake in 2005.
Ah, see, I watched
So
the 2005 one.
Yeah. So that's the 2005 one right there. And then I watched the original in 1972.
Oh,
I
you
didn't
weren't
watch
alive
it
in
in-
how
from
did you do that?
I was about to say I wasn't alive. I didn't watch it in 1972. I watched the one from 1972.
This is going to be a hard watch, you guys, but for a different reason.
On Sewol to inform any passengers, if there are any, to put on their life jackets. But they just say, oh, sorry, our PA system is down. It wasn't down. It's just bizarre. Okay?
So why did they lie?
Yeah, so it was like down at one point, but then it comes back up, and then a customer service rep is like playing that, or like a customers relations crew member is playing the message of like, do not move. There was
It's
like no
dangerous to move.
communication. Now, the Coast Guard is like, okay, well, if it's down, then go personally tell the passengers. The crew member is like, okay, I'm going to do that. He walks out of the command center and walks around a bit and comes back being like, I did that. He did not do that.
He did not
He just
do that.
lied. He
in
just
fact, did
blatantly
not do
lied to
what he said he
authorities and
did.
said, yeah, I
Yeah.
told all the passengers to put on their life jackets.
What?
Yeah.
Do they not
In
understand
an
what the hell's going
emergency,
on?
though,
No,
that's just
they do not.
wild.
The Coast Guard tries to tell Captain Lee that you need to start thinking
Imagine
and
not telling
acting
people
fast.
that the house
They
is
have
on
deployed
fire.
a vessel. They're
Pause when you're talking because I couldn't hear you and her.
Oh, I said imagine not telling people that their house is on fire. Imagine not waking them up and saying, hey, your house is on fire, get out.
Right?
Yeah. That's just
Or-
wild. Like an emergency situation and we're not doing anything. We're just like, yeah, I did that.
Or imagine setting the house on fire and then telling your kids stay in the room till the authorities show up,
Yeah.
and then one of
Like
them decides,
just blatant murder.
and then yeah, exactly, and then,
Exactly.
and then one of them says, "Fuck this shit, I'm jumping off the roof, Mom."
Some might even say premeditated. Like, because what were you
Yes.
expecting to happen?
Well, that because she wanted to get back at her husband.
I was talking about the tragedy, not
Oh.
whatever this is.
In that case, I have no idea. Whereas telling others that you told them.
Yeah, exactly.
No, absolutely.
There was a patrol vessel nearby that was coming in about 10 minutes. There was a helicopter that would get there in about 1 minute. And Lee said, yeah, that's not enough to save everybody. Like, there's more passengers than that. Because one helicopter, you could save maybe a dozen people max. No, maybe like 6, 7 people. Keep this part in mind. Because later, everyone goes and says, oh, when he said passengers, we thought maybe a couple of passengers.
Wow. I mean, right
Wait,
now
he just
everything
said
falls
that
on the
wasn't
captain,
enough
right?
to save
Oh, yeah, but
everybody.
It's going down. Like, what are you doing? Every second, what are you
Yes,
doing?
Exactly. And you're going to die when you find out what he was doing. So the passengers up until this point are
Was he drinking?
I have no idea. I guess we'll find out.
I mean, that sounds like a plausible.
still being told to stay where they are and do not move.
Was
And
he
some of the
enjoying
very
some
first
corn?
people rescued was the captain and a few of his crew.
그러나 구조당국이 가장 먼저 구조한 사람은 배를 버린 선장과 선원이었다.
The captain was
See Missy's
rescued by
face
one of
right
the
now.
small
I'm sorry. The captain is supposed to.
he was the first one off the ship.
Do you know what the captain of the Titanic did? He walked into the bridge and he met his fate like a hero. He went down with the ship like a captain's supposed to. He also couldn't get everybody off, and he felt really, really bad. But I mean, like, he just, you know, he's the first guy off is the captain.
Yeah. Yeah.
All Coast Guard boats, and he wore ordinary clothes to disguise himself as a passenger.
She's pausing already.
I'm sorry.
Yep. He's normal looking. He's a normal civilian getting on a boat being rescued. Normally.
I have a child! I have a child! Let me on the lifeboat! I have a child! That's the energy it's giving me.
Yeah.
Titanic quote.
Yeah. If you don't get that, that was Rose's fiance.
Yeah.
Because
The
only
good
women
thing-
and children were allowed
The
on
only
the boats.
good thing he did was he saved that kid.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Once he was rescued, he made no attempts, and he actually was rescued. I don't want to say before the chaos because right now is chaos, but he was rescued at a point where it wasn't just utter all hell breaks loose and there are people drowning. And
I don't believe in hell, but I do believe that what goes around comes around.
Yep.
If not this life, but perhaps the next.
Yep.
dying right now. He's like, okay, well, I think chaos is about to hit, so I'm gonna leave.
That's so fucking despicable.
Yes. Yeah, he's actually one of the most hated people in all of South Korea. The whole nation. He's alive. He disguised himself as a passenger, and once he was rescued, this is even more despicable. He gets on the Coast Guard vessel, and he doesn't let anyone know that he is the captain and that he has vital information that would help them in rescuing passengers. He doesn't relay any information to them when time and information is the most important thing to save lives.
Why?
He made no attempts to tell them how many passengers, where they were, what the
But,
PA
like,
system was doing.
why?
He did none of that. He didn't tell them.
Fuck them kids, that's why.
But, like, did he not think they were going to realize he was the
I
captain
have
later
no
on?
idea.
Was there no thought process? Like, if in a day or so he comes home and he's the captain of the ship that sank and hundreds of people died, did he not think people who knew he was the captain of that boat wasn't going to be, like, upset that children died? What, like, why not just, like, say, hey, this is how many people we have, this is how many people we need to save, and get on with it? Like, even if you're saved, you could say, I was saved so that I could hand over
I wanted,
information.
exactly, that would have been like, I wanted to turn over this information, I wanted to do what I could do to give you the information.
Like,
help,
yes,
this
you'd
is what
still
you
be
need.
despicable, but you would be shown as
This
trying to give over whatever
Okay.
information you could.
This is where you need to enter from, this is where you need to go. These are the levels that the children are on.
Yeah, exactly. Why would you just hide it out of shame is the only way I can think that happened. Why would you hide it out of shame and not think that it wasn't going to come out a day later or 2 days later?
Them that they were being told to stay in their rooms where they were effectively trapped inside this sinking boat. None of that. There is about 20 minutes of footage from some of the kids' last moments. And one of
I don't
the
wanna see it.
files that were shared were actually shared by the father of the victim.
I don't want to
And
see
he
it.
said that he wanted the world to know what actually happened to these kids. So it was filmed by a Park Soo-hyung and Kim Dong-hyuk. They were both 16, best friends. They were both on the level 3 of the boat, which is where most of the male students were dorming. These rooms had bunk beds, about 4 boys per room. Soo-hyun and Dong-hyuk, they were 2 of the last ones to start the day. They're hanging out in the cabin, sitting on the edge of their cabin, like bunk bed, when they suddenly feel the boat lurch to the left. And at first, everyone's confused, but like I said, it feels like airplane turbulence. They're not freaking out yet. Then they start overhearing the speakers starting blaring. Do not move. Stay put. It's dangerous if you move. Just stay where you are. If you're watching the video on YouTube or Spotify, I'm going to play you a clip of the video. You can actually hear the PA system in the background repeating, stay where you are, over and over again.
Still, okay.
현재 자리에서 움직이지 마시고 안전으로 잡고 대기해 주시기 바랍니다.
이거 상황이 아니야. 이거 실제라고. 와 기울 줄은 상상도
So
못했다.
scared.
이게 뭔 상황인지 모르겠어. 구명조끼 입으라는 거 침몰되고 있다는 소리 아니야?
So the boys on the third floor are freaking out.
They're
Some
talking about
students who
wearing
were on the
life
deck come to
jackets.
the cabins to let everyone know to put on their life jackets. The video footage from these students are stitched together to be about 20 minutes, but it's probably the most raw footage I've ever seen in my life. Like, it's not necessarily the most emotional in the typical sense, meaning these kids aren't crying, they're not banging on the windows to get out, but you just see how real and relatable the situation is. Like, the way that these kids, at first, they don't think the ship.
You're literally seeing the last moments
Yeah.
of their life.
Yeah.
If not their last, like, moments, but, like, the last minutes
Yeah.
of their life.
The last record.
The last
of
record
them.
of them. And, like, that is always going to be
Haunting.
haunting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ship is going to sink, because who thinks that? You know, they're kind of joking around, but they're putting faith in the adults and the captain and the PA system, and they're kind of playing around with each other, and I find that it's a way that they're coping with it. And then eventually you hear that humor kind of dissipate, and it gets replaced by them saying, I don't want to die. But they're still trying to keep this almost cool front in front of their friends. You can hear other kids trying to check up on their friends and contacting their family members back home on their phones.
I'm glad you
But
only
near
showed
the
us
end,
a
you can
little
hear and
clip.
see most of them start to feel
We
very,
are not
very
going to be
scared.
watching this footage,
You
guys.
hear students say things like, will the water really leak in? The shaking is getting serious. It's tilting so much this way, I can't even move. This is getting ridiculous. I want to get off. I really want to leave. Am I going to die? It's not going to go down any further, right? Like, what the hell is going on? Hurry and rescue us. What's wrong with these people? I don't understand what's happening. If they're telling us to wear life vests, does that mean the ship is sinking?
Smells like boiled eggs. That's interesting. Is that like a gas thing?
Don't ever let my brother go on a school trip.
Please don't go on a school
trip if you don't want to end up like your brother, okay?
Oh no. They're leaving messages. This is sad.
엄마 사랑해요. 아빠 사랑해요. 둘 다 사랑해요. 센세 어딨어?
Near the end, one of the
Where's
students
the
even screams,
teacher?
let me live. Who's going to take care of my mom and sister? Let me live.
Yeah.
And now, all throughout this, you
come
hear the PA system in the back. Dear passengers, a guidance announcement. Those of you who are inside the ship, please do not move. Try to find a pole you can hold on to.
A pole.
The kids also note that they start smelling something very bad. They wonder out loud if it's gas because it smells like boiled eggs, which
Oh, I
is
was
typically
wondering
a gas
that.
leak scent.
Who's talking in the system?
Just, it's like an automated message.
Oh,
Yeah.
nobody's
They
even.
have an automated message that says, please grab a pole.
Hold on to a pole. Well, maybe they do the automated message during like heavy
Maybe,
weather.
maybe,
You know, like hold
maybe.
on because like we're in a storm and there's going to be turbulence and we don't want you to fall and hurt yourself.
Maybe.
And like
No.
talking.
Oh, yeah, no. Most of the crew are like, bye.
Here's a button. They press a button
Yeah.
and then they dip.
You're going to edit this out. Just like... Except for the bartender.
You know what?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, exactly like girl, because they really did just dip and leave everybody. They walked into their freezer and locked the door and said, bye, we're gonna go to safety and you guys got to figure it out for yourselves.
We'll have to tell you guys the whole tornado story sometime.
And it's very heartbreaking because you just hear that playing while these kids are repeating, we don't want to die. So more phone calls were placed between passengers and police. The students are even telling the police, please, the ship is sinking. I don't want to die. We've been told to stay put. We're not supposed to move. Another student can be heard saying, really, once the water starts coming in, we really got to get out. And another student says, no, like, it says we shouldn't move. There are a few things to gather from these students' last moments. They're trying to stay strong. They're trying to keep each other company. And if you listen and you speak Korean and you listen to the whole clip, a lot of these kids are thinking about their families, or a lot of them are asking, wait, has anybody checked on the girls on the other floor? Or has anyone checked on the teachers? Like, trying to see if their friends and even their teachers are okay. Some of them were joking around that this was the Titanic and sang the theme song, which I saw a lot of like old people be like, what's wrong with kids? But that's how they cope.
That's a coping mechanism, yeah.
No,
I was about to say that.
No,
Yeah. Well, because we
100%.
joke around all the time about, you know, in serious circumstances.
Yeah.
Like this, where we're all ha 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 1 minute in order to cope with what we're actually watching.
Yes.
And
like,
singing a song as, like, you know, My Heart Will Go On is just a coping mechanism to deal with the trauma they're going through.
absolutely. And
Yeah.
it's okay. You know, dark humor is not everybody's thing, but if you know, you know.
Yeah.
You know. No, I would totally be singing, you know, My Heart Will Go On.
Oh, yeah, just to
100%.
keep from freaking
Like,
out.
yeah.
Really.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, I actually think, if I remember correctly, weren't we humming do 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 do
Yeah, we were 100%.
from The Wizard of Oz, which
Yeah.
is, you know, where the you
Well,
see
you were
the woman
trying
on the
to keep
bicycle.
the guy
I was
that was
trying
next
to keep
you
yes.
from having a panic attack. So
I'm
you were
trying not to have a panic attack, and then this guy who's even more panicked.
Yeah, so you were trying to calm somebody down.
Yeah,
So you
and
were being funny.
I was being funny, and you know, I'm like, I think I said something to him about along the lines of, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if we see the Wicked Witch of the West flying around here or something. And like, you know, I was trying to make him not panic because like this guy was really, really, really just like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, and for whatever reason, he chose to sit down next to me, and he chose me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know, trying
Maybe
to
you
like
could see you were panicked too.
maybe, and
Yeah.
like I was trying to, you know, calm him down. And I don't know, it seemed to work, but I mean, like we're in a tornado, and I'm like the Wicked Witch of the West because you know, it's either that or flying cows.
Yeah.
Moo!
Ooh. I was
Sure.
wondering if they chose to tell everybody to stay put as an automated message to prevent the ship from tipping further.
That could be in the
to
case
like
of it.
cause like a weight distribution issue.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that's
But
what I was
I don't
wondering.
think the weight of the people would be enough with the weight of all the cargo.
Yeah. Like,
But-
there's just no reason for it at all.
No, it's a very senseless tragedy.
It really is.
They followed the rules. They followed the advice of the adults who they believed were doing the right thing, so they stayed put. They trusted the captain. Even teachers were going
wasn't
around
even on
dorm
the
to dorm
ship
to make sure
anymore.
that these kids didn't go because they thought, again, it was in the best interest and the safety and welfare of the children for them to stay
But
put.
the crew was gone
One
and they had
student
no
texted
idea.
his mom, "Please, if I don't survive, Mom and Dad, I love you." Another one texted his parents, "Mom, Dad, younger sister, I love you guys so much, and please don't ever let my little sister go on a school trip ever."
Yeah, we made that comment.
These are some of the
It was a
kids'
little
last
brother,
words.
like, yeah.
So, key points. They're told to stay in their cabin. They're told not to evacuate or come to the deck. They also noticed that some of the zippers on many of the life vests were broken. Not only that, but
We
one of the
didn't even
boys
have good
said,
life vests.
"I just discovered something really horrible. This life vest says it was made in 1994. Here, look, it's written in the back.
That was 20 years. Those were 20-year-old life vests.
Made in 1994. They didn't even have enough life vests to go around. So a lot of the kids were sacrificing life vests to each other and to their friends. They were asking if the teachers and the girls all had life vests. The videos,
So the boys were giving up their life vests for the girls.
Women and children first.
They had.
They were all children!
They had more dignity
than that captain.
than the captain and the crew that
Yep.
just left.
Those boys had all the... well, they would have made all the gentlemen on Titanic proud.
Yeah, no kidding.
Were captured on Kim Dong-yeop's phone, and he would not make it out alive. So while this is the situation inside the boat, mainstream media at the same time, like imagine this is happening at the same time. Please, just the irony of all of this. Mainstream media starts reporting that all passengers have been rescued. It sounds stranger than
What?
fiction. I don't even know how to explain to you what they thought that they were going to get out of this, what the politicians thought was going to happen when this all came out to be lies and false. But it's insane. If this happened in a movie, it'd be unbelievable.
So let me get this straight. They're trying to gaslight the entire country.
Into believing that there was nobody else on the ship.
Yeah, I'd believe that. I'd believe that of governments.
Imagine you're a parent, and imagine you're getting these text messages from your kids saying, you know, I love you, and if I don't make this out, and then you turn on the news and they're like,
Everybody's been rescued.
And then you're like, wait a second. Then do the parents believe that everyone has been rescued and that their kids are going to be okay?
Can you imagine you're watching it and it says, everyone's been rescued.
And
then
you're
you look
packing
down
up to go get your kid?
and you look down and it's like, you look down and it's literally like, Mom, I love you.
I think I would believe this was on a delay or something. You know, like the text message was on a delay and our kid was rescued like, I don't know, 30 minutes later or an hour later. And that I would be driving down to a kid who was saved. You know?
Yeah.
And that was just a delayed text from when my kid was scared. You know?
Because, like, you know, maybe they're, you know, with everything going on, the parent would probably believe that their kid is one of the few missed.
Or missed ones, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, God, this is rough.
There were reports that all passengers were rescued. Tanwon High School parents let out a sigh of relief. Oh my God, okay. That cryptic text, my child is fine. They're probably not responding to my texts or my calls because they're probably on like a Coast Guard vessel right now and they're busy, but that's fine. They start noticing something fishy though. They're trying to get in contact with their children, no responses. They contact other parents and they're like, no, we also haven't gotten any responses. And when they watch the news very carefully, the numbers aren't adding up. And it's not like some sort of conspiracy, but the government would report that we rescued all the passengers.
This kind of confused me.
Then a little bit later, they'd be like, okay, well, we have rescued majority of the passengers. Then it'd be like, oh, and these are not the exact figures, but it would be something like, we rescued 200 passengers. And then later they'd be like, we rescued 150 passengers. So which one is it? Who are you rescuing? How do you unrescue people?
How do you
You're a powerful
unrescue?
nation and you can't even do basic arithmetic? Like, what's going on? So frustrated, the parents, they start traveling to Chindo Island. Now, Chindo Island is the closest island to where the crash happened. Not
Okay.
Jeju Island. Chindo Island is very close to the southern tip of South Korea. Jeju Island, you'd have to go further out into the Yellow Sea. The parents all decide to use the Chindo gym to be their coordination place. And I truly don't even know how to explain what I'm going to say next. But first of all, the people organizing this gym to make sure everyone is in the right place were the parents of the children on the boat.
What?
They arrived, there's no organization, it's chaos, so they take it upon themselves to make sure everything is organized. Not the Coast Guards, not the local officials, the police, the parents take charge.
How?
The rescue teams had these giant whiteboards on.
The same way you took charge with the
I mean, like, yes, I did take charge with the tornado, but imagine your kid
on a yeah.
on a ship and you're the one who has to figure out how many have been saved, who was rescued, how
is-
many was on the ship to begin with,
What the actual fuck?
right? It doesn't make sense.
on the front with a list of names of passengers who have been rescued. And of course, parents are flocking and praying and wishing that it's their child on the list. But these families are getting frustrated. One parent grabs a mic and says, "Here, I can clearly see my younger sister's name on the list of survivors. It says she was rescued, but my sister isn't here, so where is my sister? Who on earth made this list?"
That's what?
분명히 제 동생이 있어요. 여기 명단에 분명히 제 동생이 있는데
So these are authorities being like, here's all the
that's
people we
awful.
rescued, and the parents are like, we don't believe you because where are our children then?
How do you see all of this and then just still not do anything?
Another parent screamed, please, just get us a boat so we can save our kids. Get us a boat. We don't care how much it costs. I will pay for it.
Call a boat service?
배도 안 보인대요. 경찰들만 놀고 있고 아무 그거
Probably
없대요
have to
지금.
have a very
장수가
specific
없고.
boat to be able to handle where it is.
Yeah.
지금 그런 상황이에요.
지금 뭐 얘기로는 지금 뭐 시신도 많이 꺼냈다고 하는데 지금 가요 다.
Another one said, I feel like the parents, including myself, are here waiting for our children to die. We want an answer from the person in charge. Why are orders not going through and nothing's being done? You guys are clearly lying and kicking responsibility to others. Another parent screams, let's all go together. Let's all go together. The parents are rushed to the harbor, and to show you how they still had this unfailing hope of a parent, they all grabbed blankets on the way out. They said when their kid gets saved, they want to make sure that they have something to keep them warm. They all go to the harbor and they wait. There's nothing that they can do. Side note, police were lined up at the edge of the harbor to prevent family members from going into the water, whether to try and rescue a kid or
But they're
to,
right,
in a desperate attempt.
right there.
A parent screamed, I want to jump in the water with them. My loved one is under the water. Anger is not enough. If I don't have my younger child, I'm going to jump in the water thinking about my child in the water. How can I, as a parent, continue to live, eat, and drink? I hate myself. Someone near a mom tried to put one of the blankets on one of the moms because it was so cold. And she cried, what good is it staying warm when the kids are freezing out there? They're freezing. What good is it for us to stay warm? Not a single government official was at that harbor. Nobody responded to the family's frustrations or questions.
Okay,
They said that a helicopter was dispatched, so they say I thought they were going to be rescued. Wait, is that the water behind her?
no, that's a wall.
Is it a wall? Okay.
Wait, this is nighttime?
Yeah,
It's been a day?
it's been a day. We're gonna go back into the rescue.
There-
Just you
oh.
wait.
Oh my god.
Hold up.
Yeah.
I don't want to watch it again, but this is...
Nighttime. It's been
No, this backdrop. It's so dark back here. You would think that if there was any kind of rescue operation going on, anything at all, there would be lights. You would see light behind
There would
her.
be
There would be helicopter sounds behind her talking. It's so quiet and dark in this shot that I think that's what threw me. Cause I was like,
light, sound, something.
yeah,
exactly.
there's nothing behind her. And I'm assuming it's towards
Wait,
the water.
this is nighttime?
Yeah,
It's been a day?
it's been a day. We're gonna go back into the rescue. Just you wait.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so again, I mean, the families resorted to asking reporters on what's going on, but none of the reporters, most of the reporters at the harbor at this point were mainstream media reporters. The only ones there that actually
I think
cared
this
about
is
helping
about
the
the part
parents
where I
was
turned
News
it off.
Stapa,
I
which is
can't
why I
blame
think a
you.
lot of parents continue to work with News Stapa. These are some of the most devastating clips I've seen. I mean, just the desperation in these parents, like their grief, their worry, their anger, it just, and so many of them it's a lot.
진짜 가보자. 기자들도 당신들도 타고 현장을 한번 가보자. 제대로 된 정보를 여러분한테 좀 알려주라는 얘기예요, 내 얘기는.
So let's talk about the rescue, because you mentioned, like, how is this nighttime? So the rescue that government officials and media said was a success was not a success at all. The Coast Guard helicopter was dispatched
this
to the
point-
sinking ferry.
If they spent 2 minutes saving one passenger, they'd have saved all of them.
Right?
At 9:10
Yeah.
a.m. They arrive at around 9:30 a.m. 2 rescuers come down and rescue 6 passengers via helicopter. And these passengers were like on the deck. So they're like waving. They're visible. They're outside. Now, at 9:32, the helicopter starts communicating with the Blue House. And the Blue House is like the White House. And they keep asking, is the situation serious? The helicopter says, the ferry is tilted and currently being flooded. It hasn't sunken yet. Can you please send over a video? Now, this is being heavily criticized because time is of the essence. Such an urgent incident is taking place.
need
And
a
really,
video.
I don't know what to say because it casually feels like the Blue House is saying, pics or it didn't happen.
Yeah.
And sure, maybe videos can help them get a better understanding of what's going on. But if this is the government responsible for running a literal company, they better be more competent than
Google
this.
Maps it.
They keep calling back to the helicopter, not
sure
giving
that's
commands,
not how that works.
not doing a full-scale command center operation, but going, did you send the videos yet? Just nonstop. Over.
The Blue House is giving. This could have been an email.
Yeah. Instead of actually like doing something.
Good grief.
And over again, wasting time asking for videos. And what's even crazier is that the helicopter is like, well, we didn't want to take any videos in case it gets leaked. But the Blue House is like, it's fine, text it to my phone.
What?
Here, there's footage.
지금 현재 지금 일단 배가 좀 기울어서 침수 중이고 아직 침몰은 안 됐고요.
어디 저기 카메라 나오는 건
We get a
없어요?
네, 아직
video of the
없습니다. 예.
accident scene. No, not yet.
예.
현지 영상 있습니까? 혹시 나오는데요? 현지
Get
영상
a
볼수
video
있는 거
of the
있습니까?
scene.
본인 내 외부로 나가지 아마 않을 건데 이게 방송이.
And it just keeps going. Like before, it was up more.
The Blue House is basically like, okay, well, we're going to hang up. Just call us back when you get the footage. Oh, this is like the smallest thing the Blue House messes up. So just
That
you
was
wait. I mean,
moments,
a president
not
was
moments, but
indirectly
a little
impeached
while
because of this
later.
incident. So
Because one
soon
was
after
up
this,
higher,
the
and
Coast
then
Guard
this one
patrol
was
vessel
down
123 arrives at the ferry. They throw over a raft and they head to the ferry to start their little rescue. Just anytime I say rescue, don't think of it as a rescue. Think of it in quotations because it's just a bunch of people acting busy. The first people to step into this rescue raft are the captain and crew members. Not all, but a few.
They're like, I'm out.
Just reminded
Yeah,
me
they're
of
like,
the
bye.
Texas school.
They have abandoned the ship.
Yeah.
But then so does the Coast Guard. The Coast Guard, the vessel, distances itself from the ferry and they try not to enter the ferry, get close to the ferry. They don't try anything. Meanwhile, there's about 3 helicopters that are just circulating, that are just loitering the area, watching.
What's the deal? What's the problem then?
No one's giving them any commands.
So they're all clueless on what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
And the captain is like just staying silent.
Yeah. And then the Blue House is like, well, we can't tell you what to do unless we get a clear HD
you're
4K
the
video.
Blue House.
And then all these other authorities, like the Coast Guard, the Mokpo Coast Guard, the Chindo authorities, they're like, well, we don't know what to do. Have you tried calling the Blue
Coast
House?
Guard.
Wow.
So everyone's just waiting around. And what's crazy is that there was a U.S. Navy vessel that was nearby that rushed to the scene and they're like, hey.
So it is a little bit like the bystander effect. Because it's like, well, we don't need to do anything. We'll just wait for the Blue House to do something. Oh, well, the Blue House can't do anything because they need pictures and they're waiting on somebody else to do something.
The chain of command completely broke down.
Yeah.
And you don't, I don't know what the protocol is right here, guys. What are we supposed to be doing without orders? They're just, they could have done something.
Yeah.
But then again, they didn't
want
to run the risk of getting in trouble.
What to do when you're the Coast
Guard.
But,
why not take... They had a U.S. naval vessel. The Navy would probably know how to do something about this. The U.S. Navy. And, but they didn't even, they're like, no, we're fine.
Yeah.
We're fine. This is... I don't even have words.
Hey, we can help. And the U.S. Navy is so equipped. This vessel had 100 Marines on there. 100.
What?
Oh, no, 1,000 Marines.
1,000.
Oh my God, those Marines. Okay, Marines get shit done.
There could have at least been
they could have gotten
3
shit done.
Marines to say 1 student. You know?
No kidding. The Marines can get shit done.
Oh my
They weren't allowed to get this shit done. Oh, my knee.
Oh my knee.
Sorry, guys.
We're old, guys. We're old.
My knee just kind of popped a little bit. But no, Marines are well known for getting things done.
They should have been able to help. They were right there.
That naval vessel alone could have done so fucking much.
Wow.
Oh my god.
Marines. South Korea was like, it's fine, we're waiting on a video.
The government shut them down?
Yeah, the government was like, it's fine, we're handling it.
Oh my god.
I'm going on a little side note, but another rant. The U.S. vessel, the Navy vessel, actually had helicopters on the vessel, and they had launch pads. So basically, they didn't have to go back to land to bring.
They could have landed on the. They could have.
That's so much worse.
They had a launch pad.
They had the capabilities.
They could have. They didn't have to take. They would have been able to just helicopter everybody
over.
And they would have had 1,000 Marines. That these are Navy. These are men and women who are trained for boats and for the ocean and for the rescue and stuff like that.
Like, what the heck happened?
But
how can we just be so nonchalant about it?
Oh, it's fine.
We're waiting on a video. Maybe if they got that video, they'd know how bad it was. Maybe they didn't just, like, understand because they needed a video, which is so stupid. You know?
Well, you know, if that sort of thing happened today, you know it's all over TikTok.
Oh, yeah.
Like, those kids would be all uploading to TikTok.
Yeah.
And there would be, like, no way to cover that up. This is absolutely disgusting.
Survivors, they could just go back and forth to their vessel that's parked very close to the sinking ferry, so they could save an insane number of survivors.
Exactly.
1 or 2 helicopters could just do nonstop back and forth in such short time.
They also have the capabilities of refueling, probably.
Yeah, they do, because
like,
most of them have fuel on their ships.
My ex-brother-in-law was on an aircraft carrier.
Mm-hmm.
They can refuel things.
Yeah.
We're going to dive into the U.S. Navy later because there's a lot of stuff there. Now, anyways, these are not
good stuff, bad stuff. Because, I mean, it sounds like they wanted to help.
I don't know. We'll find out.
I believe that the Marines would have done it regardless of Korea's refusal if they had known there were children inside. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if they can, like, because it's a completely different country. And whether or not that would cross...
taking them on... basically, the ship would have been considered American territory.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. But no. And yes, aircraft carriers do have a lot of features that make them excellent in disaster relief. Now, this one, I don't know if this was an aircraft carrier, but it was a naval vessel.
Yeah, I would assume. If they have helicopters on board, they probably have the ability to fuel those helicopters.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Not leisure helicopters either. The helicopters that are circulating the ferry are Coast Guard helicopters, and they make no additional effort. So they saved 6 people initially. That's it. They make no additional efforts to rescue anyone.
If you think about the Coast Guard helicopters, if they had taken the naval vessel up on their offer with the with the helicopters that the Navy ship had, they could have rescued so many fucking people.
Think about the dude that walked around and said absolutely nothing instead of telling people to ignore the PA system and to actually go up to the top, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm definitely not defending the Coast Guard here, but, you know, he really messed up on that one too.
They really drop the ball is not even a good enough term.
Yeah.
Like, they
failed. Like,
what is it? Screwed the pooch?
It's not even right either.
No, that They fucked up.
Yeah, they really did.
That's the only way you can describe it, is they fucked up.
Later claimed that they had no idea that there were passengers inside. They thought the rescue was over and they were just surveilling the sinking of the ferry. To sum it up, the rescue teams were just rescuing anyone that comes to the deck where you can visibly see them, but every single passenger was told to
They
stay
threw
in their
the ball
cabins.
into the water.
Oh my god, I cannot even imagine what that captain was going through at that moment.
But we can't even imagine it because I don't think any of us have such little empathy for human life.
Yeah, like when he got out, does he think that all the kids are going to come onto the deck eventually?
I don't think he thought, period.
Does he
He's,
think
like,
the Coast
knowing-
Guard's gonna break in?
Yeah,
I
is
don't
he
think there
knowing-
was any thought, but
I'm
shit.
trying to save people. I'm trying to do your job. Claim that they had no idea that there were passengers
There.
inside.
Okay.
okay.
So what I was going to say, and I'm bringing up Titanic again. Bruce Ismay, the owner of the White Star
you
Line.
gotta speak up, girly.
Okay, Bruce Ismay, the owner of the White Star Line, he got on a boat. People knew who he was. He got on a boat. Didn't even try to disguise himself as a girl or anything. He just got on one of the boats, and he actually kind of lived out the rest of his life somewhat cuckoo. Because he was racked with guilt. But obviously not enough guilt to go down with the ship.
No.
To say not enough guilt that he didn't give his
Was
seat.
he racked with guilt because he survived, or was he racked with guilt because people held him accountable for his actions?
Can both be true?
No.
No, probably because he got held accountable for his actions.
I mean, I'm sure both can be true.
But he did not care enough to not let somebody else, a woman, a child, even a husband,
She had us in just 2 words. Sorry.
come inside. But he didn't care enough to not save himself instead of saving another life of one of the passengers that paid for a Titanic ticket. And so, no, this captain is giving me Bruce Ismay.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna save my own skin and screw everybody else.
Apparently, this is going to be a lot of Titanic.
I told you, it's the only maritime disaster that I have knowledge of. Yes.
They thought the rescue was over and they were just surveilling the sinking of the ferry. To sum it up, the rescue teams were just rescuing anyone that comes to the deck where you can visibly see them, but every single passenger was told to stay in their cabins.
Oh my god, I cannot even imagine what that captain was going through at that moment.
No.
But we can't
he
even
wasn't
imagine it
thinking.
because I don't think any of us have such little empathy for human life.
Yeah, like when he
Maybe
got
a
out,
serial
does
killer.
he think that all the kids are going to come onto the deck eventually, or
Does he
he's,
think
like,
the Coast
knowing-
Guard's gonna break
go-
in?
Yeah, is he knowingly making a decision? It's like, whatever, I just gotta save myself. Let them die.
Okay, my speculation is probably the last one because I imagine if rescue efforts were made, he would be the last one rescued because that's kind of how it is in maritime communities. But maybe he thought there is a bigger chance he might die.
Sorry.
Because I don't know what he was thinking, genuinely. I can't even guess.
Self-preservation,
No one is saving anyone
but,
unless
like,
they're
in the
visibly
worst
out on the
way.
deck, like waving their arms
Absolutely.
around in these bright red life jackets. Like I said, the problem is nobody was told to come out onto the deck. The helicopters again claimed that they had no reason to believe that there were passengers inside. One helicopter Coast Guard officer, even during an interview, complains, rescue's hard. Because you tell a person that you're rescuing to watch their step, and they don't watch their step, even if you tell them to.
I'm sorry. What? Sir, there are 350 students in a ship and you're complaining about them not watching their step? You kind of have them be on your helicopter in order for them to watch their step to begin with. You're not saying that to any of them. What on earth is wrong with you?
So much. I'm not even sure that there's an itemized list
Like this
long enough.
situation of him being like,
They
I
don't
tell
listen
them
to
to watch
you.
the step and they don't watch the step has nothing to do with what's actually going on right now.
That's like a paramedic going like, oh my gosh, could you maybe stop bleeding for like 5 minutes from that stab wound?
Like, how dare you?
Like, excuse me, I am trying to like help you, but you gotta stop bleeding. Oh my god. I don't even like your face.
And he has no right calling himself a Coast Guard.
안 그리고 하물며 보통 올라갈 때 조심하라고 자세 체라니까.
아니 그러니까 그거는 모르겠는데 그 사람들 상황은 아는데 지금 구조템도 구조를 하시는 입장에서는 확인해야 되는 의무가 있습니다.
제가 물어본 것 같아. 근데 답변이 없죠.
A
there
new
was
step
no
is like
answer.
that's not the point here. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the fact that you circled around the sinking ferry and made no attempts to save anyone.
Or go in
No, like,
and
we didn't
see
know
if there was anyone to save.
It's like, why would you even bring that up? It's so bizarre. Nobody asked. Now, the annoying part is the helicopters that are circulating were talking separately with the Blue House. The giant vessel from the Coast Guard was speaking separately with the Blue House as well as the Coast Guard. There was no official duties.
Shit,
I'm
I
sorry,
did it
your
again.
nation's children circled around the sinking ferry and made no attempts to save anyone. They're like, we didn't know there was anyone to save. It's like, why would you even bring that up? It's so bizarre. Nobody asked. Now,
Or if
the
you
annoying
didn't,
part
you
is the
didn't
helicopters that are
actually do your
circulating
job
were
and go
talking
in and
separately with the Blue
see.
House. The giant vessel from the Coast Guard was speaking separately with the Blue House as well as the Coast Guard. There was no coordination. It seemed like everything was all hell breaks loose. Nobody knows what they're doing. Blue House is still asking for videos, and the only people that do something to save human lives. Do you see all these little boats? Those are civilian boats and fishermen.
The civilians?
They are the ones that took action. They are risking their lives, pulling up straight next to this capsizing, ginormous ferry. And it's very dangerous to get that close to a boat that's capsizing, especially with boats like this. And they're pulling people out of the water. One of the fishermen, Hyun, in the blue boat, he said he saw the boat listing to one side from afar, and he realized that it wasn't balancing itself back out. So he rushes over, he starts rescuing passengers that were jumping into the cold water, and he said it was hell. It was agonizing. There were a lot of people, not enough boats. The people in the water are yelling for help. The ferry was sinking fast. He said he had no idea of how many people he saved, but he was told he saved about 25 people. He said, but I don't know for sure. The people that were trapped inside the ferry couldn't come out. They were just trapped inside the ferry. If everyone was saved, maybe I would feel proud of myself. But there's grieving parents out there, so how can I feel proud? Even though he's one of the civilians saving passengers, while the Coast Guard is doing nothing, he lives with guilt for not saving everyone. What's frustrating is when the ferry starts to list, if the captain had ordered everyone to put on a life jacket and get to the dock where they're visible, the likelihood of every single person surviving was incredibly high. The amount of vessels nearby, not just civilian boats and fishermen, but the Coast Guard ships, the U.S. Navy vessels, I mean, the resources of that U.S. Navy vessels, like I said, multiple helicopters, landing decks of the helicopters, over 1,000 Marines ready to assist in air, sea rescue.
1,000?
1,000. Sorry, did I say 100?
You say 100.
1,000. 1,000 Marines. That's how big the U.S. Navy vessel was.
Wow.
1,000 Marines. And I know I'm American, so it might not mean anything because it's just patriotism. But if I'm in the water somewhere, I want these Marines to save me.
That's what we were saying earlier.
In America and Korea.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Well, you could definitely say they're better trained than whatever this Coast Guard is.
Are on really good terms, so I don't know why they declined for help, but a lot of people think it's President Park was known to have a big ego and was very, very self-conscious about international relations, but not in the way that you want your president to be, not in the way of like, oh, of course we want good international relations, but wanted to look good is all she cared about. So
it's a girl president. Wow, okay. I don't know what
Good-
that feels like.
Good for her, but at the same time,
maybe not.
The U.S. Navy
circled
vessel
like
just loitered
vultures waiting for them to be done.
Right?
And gone.
around, waiting to be used at any given moment. They're like, wait.
What do they think that recovering bodies Do they think that recovering bodies is easier than rescuing people?
Maybe. I don't know. I don't even think they know how to
We'll
do
look
that.
bad if we let other countries help us. Better let an entire boat full of people drown. An entire boat?
Like
that
I
is
said,
predominantly
nobody is
children.
thinking. Nobody is thinking in this situation.
An entire boat that is full of predominantly children.
Like, out of all of your citizens, the worst thing you can do is let a bunch of kids drown.
Yeah.
You know, because that's a good way to piss off a lot of adults in your country.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So the U.S. Navy vessel just loitered around waiting to be used at any given moment. They're like waiting to be called in because, you know, it'd be a shit show if they just went in there. But the call never came. The rescue could have been so successful, and these Marines are specifically trained in air-sea rescue.
Correct.
No way.
The Korean Coast.
So this... Oh my god! They have a vessel with 1,000 Marines that are trained in air-sea rescue? And they're not utilizing this?
It's like they were given a gift horse and said, nah, I'm good.
Okay.
I don't want your gift.
Okay, so there's this thing that my dad...
Oh, is this,
yeah.
Okay, Katrina?
No, it's not Katrina.
It's not Katrina?
It's
I
not
always thought
Katrina.
it was Katrina.
It was just a general flood.
Oh, okay, never mind.
So there's this story about faith that my dad has told me, okay? And, so you have this guy, and he's in a flood. You know, his house is flooding. The first floor, he goes to the second floor, he's at a window, and a rowboat rows up. And it's like, hey, come on, get in, let me get you out of here. And he's like, no, God's gonna save me. God is gonna save me. I'm praying so hard, God is gonna save me. The rowboat's like, okay, you weirdo. That's actually not the way my dad tells it, but I'm just gonna add flourish. And the guy rows off. And man, now the second floor is flooding, right? And he's like up in his attic now. And like a power boat, like, you know, motorboat comes up and is like, dude, come on, get in. And he's like, no, guys. God's gonna save me. It's okay. I have faith that God's gonna save me. It's all right. And the motorboat goes off to rescue other people. Now the guy is up on his freaking roof, right? And the water's rising. He's up on his roof, and a helicopter shows up. Sir, we're gonna toss you a ladder. Climb on up. It's okay. God's gonna save me. Guy drowns, and he's like, God, why didn't you save me? Well, I don't know. I sent you a rowboat. I sent you a motorboat, and I sent you a helicopter. You didn't use any of them.
In this case, I'm not a religious person, but if I were, I would say that they had a ship with 1,000 Marines capable of actually helping them, and they're just like, nah, we don't need it.
Exactly.
You know?
Nah, we're good.
Nah, we're good. You
Yeah.
know? And they're like, well, why did all these people drown? And it's like, well, because you decided to be stupid.
Exactly.
You thought, I don't know, some miraculous miracle was going to happen or something. I have no idea. But, like, I mean, if I was religious, I would say, oh, yeah, God put them right there.
Yeah, it's
so
like...
that they could be saved.
Like,
and they chose not to do it.
Exactly. It's like God, like you could say God or whatever deity or the powers that be, whatever you're gonna believe in, put the tools right there in front of you. All you had to do was pick it up. All you had to do was get on the boat, and in this case, use the Navy ship. And the 1,000 Marines that are trained for this kind of situation. And they didn't.
That's just wild.
That is
so wild.
Coast Guard, they were more like patrol people. They patrol to make sure that there's no illegal fishermen from other countries fishing in their seas. Most of the Korean Coast Guard was on a job to look for illegal Chinese fishermen, literally. That was their job. So the U.S. Navy, why were they not used? I still don't understand. So one thing that you notice that's a problem is that all of these officials who get paid by the state, by government tax dollars that the civilians pay, they don't want to be the ones to make the call. They don't want to be the ones held accountable. So everyone keeps
You're the government. You're supposed to make that call.
You're supposed to be the one held
That's
accountable.
why the tax dollars pay you to do a job.
They need to go back to school and like learn the basics.
I'm getting a headache.
pushing responsibility onto each other.
just-
And that's what resulted in so many of these different vessels and helicopters just waiting around while people are dying. But there are heroes in this story. So do you remember the first emergency call made was by a student, Chue?
Yeah.
He stayed on the phone with emergency services trying to give them the exact location of the sinking ferry.
So then they should know there's kids in there.
They do know there's kids in
He
there.
tried to give the exact location.
Except
They're not
there's
communicating with the other people that there are kids in there.
And it takes tragedies in order for there to be policies. And
The funny thing is I don't even think they care enough for there to be policies made.
that's true.
This is why they're all getting fired and put in jail. And hopefully some death penalties.
Because again, I don't know why this was such a problem. I don't know how they didn't know where the exact location was, but remember the 2.5 hour delay. I guess they were thinking the boat was closer to Jeju because they didn't factor in the delay, but they were closer to Jindo Island, so it was a mess. And Chue, he was sad that he wasn't able to call his parents. The information that he was able to provide to authorities was very crucial. Chue's body was found, and his parents were really confused because, a lot of these other kids, they all had cell service and they called their parents, but they never got a call from their son.
He didn't get a chance
to call,
his parents because he was on the phone with authorities trying to tell them, I'm here, we're here, this is what's going on.
And then they did nothing.
Well, no, some of them were trying.
But then they did nothing.
Yeah, but in the end they did nothing. But, maybe the people he was on the phone with wanted to do something.
I mean, they're just the 911 operator.
I know.
They just give the message. I don't blame the person that was on the phone with
No.
them, trying to help the authorities
But he
find
didn't
them.
even get a chance to tell his parents goodbye.
No.
Because he was trying to say, we're here. This is what's going on. Come save us. And they didn't. But he was trying to be a hero.
Yep.
Later told that he was the one on the phone with emergency services. And they said, it made sense. We're just so proud of him, and we think that God brought our boy into this world for this purpose, to try and save people. While Captain Lee and a few of the other crew members escaped, there were
F. Captain Lee.
Yeah, exactly.
some crew members who refused. Park Ji-an, Chung Hyun-sun, and Kim Gi-won. They stayed aboard the ferry to help the students. All three went down with the sinking boat.
Which is exactly what the captain should have done, and
Correct.
all of the crew. The crew should have gotten.
But I won't, because, I don't know their story just yet, but couldn't they be pulling people up to the top if they are part
Maybe
of
they did pull some of them, but if there were only 3 crew members.
Yeah, that's true.
And hundreds of people.
That's true.
Park Ji-young was the youngest part-time worker of the crew. She was just 22 years old. I mean, she's barely older than these high school
She's
students.
only 22.
Yeah.
2 years prior to this, her father passed away, and her mom didn't have enough money. So she dropped out of school and started working. She
Aw.
was one of the first to have an easy escape. She was near the dock. She could hear the kids though, and the PA system was still telling them to stay put. So she runs to the ship, took off her life jacket, gave it to a younger kid nearby who didn't have one.
Oh, no.
And like I said, she's basically a kid herself. She starts stumbling, running as fast as she can through the halls, and yells for the students to evacuate. She's handing out life jackets. She tells them to jump ship. She guides some 50 students to the civilian fishing boats who lift them out of the water and into the boat.
50.
One survivor remembers grabbing Park's arm and saying, okay, just come, jump in the water with us. Like, you don't have a life jacket, but I'm going to hold your arm. And she said, after saving you guys, after saving the rest of them, I'll get out. Crew goes out last.
Oh,
And then she
that's so hurtful because she was one of the only ones, save for 3.
She was one of the 3.
One of the 3.
Crew goes last. Well, she understood the assignment.
Yeah.
Unlike the captain.
Disappeared again to save more kids. She kept going, and the last time someone saw her alive was going deeper into the water where it was already chest level to see if there were more students. Her body was later found floating face down. Still no life jacket. Even in her last moments, she never wore one because there wasn't enough life jackets for both passenger and crew. 2 other crewmates, Chung Yeon-sun and Kim Gi-won, they refused to escape with cowards. They wanted to save the kids. Chung and Kim also could have been very easily rescued, but they decided to go back down and help the children. They were both 28, and they were actually getting married later that year to each other. Their bodies were later found as well, and they had spent their last moments saving children.
Oh.
These 3 part-time crew members would formally...
But can I say, they got to go together, and that's kind of sweet.
It's sweet and sad.
It's just like
I mean, drowning is not sweet.
No. But I mean, they were
rescuing people.
Keep rescuing people, and then they got to go together.
Yeah.
You know, and this is giving me all feels.
...only be recognized by the government as national martyrs. Because it was just such a stark contrast to the captain and the crew.
They were with each
most
other
of the
till
crew
the
who were
end.
among the first to abandon the ship. Young Daeong was another crew member that went down with the ship. He's 45 years old, and he called his wife, and he told her, this is where you need to find the savings for our teenage son's college tuition, okay?
Aww.
And when she tried to plead with him, he told her, I love you, but I can't talk. I have to go save the kids. His body was found a month later, and his face was unrecognizable, and there was a walkie-talkie found near him. Soo-young was a young teacher, and it was her second year teaching at Tanwon High. She was very young, and it was her first year on the school field trip. When the boat started sinking, she texted her mom, Mom, the ship is sinking. Her mom called her and was like, hurry, put on a life vest, and she responded calmly, Mom, the students are all wearing life vests, indicating there weren't any more for her. She texted her boyfriend after this and said, I'm sorry. There's no more life vest. Thank you, and I love you. And he calls her, and she says, I can't, I'm sorry. My battery is low, and some of the students still need to call their parents. Her last words were, I love you, thank you, to her boyfriend. Another teacher was Ko Tang-suk, and Mr. Ko was a PE teacher.
Because at the end of the day, a teacher is going to have to put yourself second, and you're always going to have to put yourself in between the danger and the children, trying to save them. And by handing over your life vest, you're also like saying the kids come first.
This is the PE teacher. He was a PE teacher for the last decade. And at his old job, before he got to Tanwon, there was actually a fire in the school. And he was given like an award by the school because he ran in head on into the fire to save students from the burning fire. He also went down. And I mean, there was no question what he was going to do. He was going to save the kids.
Of course.
He left behind a loving wife and 2 sons.
That's
His
sad.
body actually wouldn't be recovered until 3 years after the incident.
3
I'm
years?
sorry.
There was a memorial service held for him, and a student came and said, Mr. Ko could have escaped early, but he stayed to take care of us until the very end. So these are all heroes, and it's not really a heartwarming story, though, where you feel good in the end. You're like, yes, the hero won, because nobody wins. There's like way too many villains in this one to even get close to the number of heroes. There's another story, though, on the boat where a 6-year-old girl, this reminds me of Itaewon, but A 6-year-old girl was there with her parents and her 7-year-old brother. So they were part of the passengers that were going on vacation to Jeju. She was passed one by one from adults to the water to one of the fishermen's boats.
Oh.
All the way. Her parents and her 7-year-old brother would all perish.
Well, that's
Everyone worked to get this girl to safety, and she would be the youngest survivor of Sewol. Now, civilians were the only hope for these children because of the government, the authorities, they were doing nothing. Like I said, most of these boats saving these people are civilians, fishermen, commercial fishermen, just regular citizens, not government workers. But many civilian divers who saw the news said they were gearing up to volunteer as rescuers. These are like professional divers who have been doing this that want to volunteer to save these kids, right? They know the dangers. They're gearing up. They're coming from Sewol and all these places. But then the news starts flooding that everyone has been rescued.
Right.
So they're like, oh, okay, I guess I don't have to go? Like, why would I go into the water if everyone's already rescued out of the water? And it wasn't until hours later there were these like rumors and these kind of like fishy things that these volunteer divers were even picking up on. Because, you know, these are people who know how to dive, and the way that the news was reporting these rescues just didn't sound right. So they're like, why don't I just head to Chindo Island and see what's going on? Maybe they need me, maybe they don't. I mean, at least I can try, right? So many precious hours were lost because these civilian divers didn't go at the time because, I mean, nobody's blaming the civilian divers here. They're risking their lives to save others. But the fact that they thought everyone had been rescued, it's just so frustrating how grossly mishandled this was. Many of the civilian divers, they volunteered and they started arriving at around 4 p.m. that day. The boat started sinking at like 9 a.m. They got there around 4 p.m. and they were told to report to a command ship of the Coast Guard that was stationed near the ferry. So these volunteer divers, they don't come to play. They're suiting up, gearing up, mentally preparing themselves, but the Coast Guard is not letting them do their jobs.
What?
One of the civilian divers said it was bizarre. I was being walked around this Coast Guard vessel. Like, come here, let me introduce you to my colleague. Oh, and this is my captain here. Oh, and then this is my senior colleague. What did you say your name was? How long have you guys been diving? Yeah, oh, that's cool. Oh, you know, my colleague is from that area. Do you want to come to the cafeteria? They prepared ramen.
I'm sorry.
This is not an exaggeration.
The
rescue divers said they prepared...
Okay, I'm not an expert, but I do know that there are stories after a ship sinks that there's these, like, air pockets where people can survive in those air pockets and they can actually still be rescued by these divers. So there's like a small opening or an opportunity. I remember there being a story of a ship had sank and this guy survived in an air pocket for several days before he was found by a diver and rescued. So these divers coming in to try and help could save these people. And we're giving small talk? It's like small talk. Like, we're wasting time with small talk.
The Coast Guard seriously gave 0 fucks.
Like, yeah, exactly. It's small talk.
Oh, yeah, they're gonna have ramen. Dude, I don't have time to eat.
Right.
I want to go rescue some people.
Prepared ramen.
Hello?
Press play.
No, it sped up for a second.
This is not an exaggeration. The rescue divers said they prepared ramen. How long have you guys been diving? Yeah, oh, that's cool. Oh, you know, my colleague is from that area.
The government...
Do you want to come to the cafeteria?
We're already lying about the rescues, so they probably didn't want them to be able to say, yeah, we found people still alive in there.
No kidding.
Prepared ramen. This is not an exaggeration. The rescue diver said they prepared ramen, and he was so disgusted. He just didn't understand. He saw some of the top dogs aboard this command ship. 2-star Navy officers, chief of the Coast Guard, chief of the West Coast Coast Guard, the chief of the Mokpo Coast Guard, fancy suits and shoes, tip-tapping away on their laptops.
Wait, I'm confused.
Why?
Like, they're not sending people down the water?
No. That's what they're doing, just tip-tapping on their laptops. The ramen was even brought into the conference room for these chiefs to eat, and the diver that was interviewed said he wished he could have recorded the video of these chiefs just digging into these noodles like pigs. They said they ate the ramen noodles, had a meeting for 5 minutes, and then the chiefs were like, well, we got other places to be, so bye. he was sickened to see that the chief of the West Coast Guard went to a press conference like immediately after this, the whole ramen debacle, in his uniform with all of
They
his
just
badges, and stated,
had a lunch date.
as of today, 164 vessels, 24 aircraft, 178 special rescue workers are doing our best in conducting a...
I'm sorry. I saw that
they're
black background of that mom crying and ain't nobody there. Where are all these freaking vessels?
I don't know, but it's giving me, they're throwing out random numbers like they're throwing out random numbers like the lottery numbers.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, we've saved 64, we've saved 75, we've saved 108, we've saved 54.
If all of those people were there trying to rescue anybody, that parent crying would have been drowned out by the noise.
No words, but he's not alone. Many of the civilian divers came forward anonymously later to say that the Coast Guard would not let them do their job. And it wasn't even a job, they're volunteering. Just wouldn't let them do it. It was just nonstop like, oh, come meet my colleague. Oh, are you sure that's up to code? Your diving suit? Are you sure? What is it made out of? They're like, what is your deal? Let us go save some children right now. So the parents, now remember how the parents wanted to rent a boat to go out to sea for themselves and to save their children.
Right.
Well, the very first day, a group of the parents do rent a boat, and they go to report back to the others what's going on. And one dad screamed, "They told us civilians can enter the water, but the Coast Guard can't." What is this?
What?
They're basically saying, oh, you want to dive in and get your...
What?
I'm sorry. Then why the hell are these... Oh,
Civilians can go in,
but the Coast Guard can't?
but the Coast Guard can't.
You're the Coast Guard. That's literally your job.
Is to go in and get those kids.
Do your job. Why are these civilians doing it for you?
It's like a firefighter just watching the building burn and be like, yeah, we can't go in, but you can put the fire out.
Here's a spray bottle.
Kid, dive in and get your kid, but we can't. He's screaming, what is this? What is this? The civilian diver, one of the civilian rescue divers, had volunteered to go on the boat with them, and he was explaining, with these conditions, the Coast Guard should be going in. The conditions are calm. This is optimal rescue conditions right now.
We have
Earlier that day, civilian fishermen were
too.
trying to break windows to save people, but the Coast Guard said, no, we can't do that. So they can't break windows, they can't go into the ferry before it sinks to save
Why
people.
are you here?
And now that part of the ferry is sunken, they can't try to rescue people by diving. They can't do anything. What are you
Y'all
doing?
had
Why do you
divers.
exist?
Why do you
have a
exist?
job?
Why are
A
you
reporter
here?
asked a parent who saw the ferry sinking and said, and what are the Coast Guard doing right now?
Nothing.
And he says, as of right now, there's nothing they're doing. April 16th was the morning the boat started listing, okay? Now, at 10:52, reporters went out to the scene, and still nothing was being done. 10:52 p.m., a whole day had passed.
14 hours later?
Yeah, and nothing was being done. Let me show you.
Look how dark
how
that
calm
is.
That's
water
the
was.
ship.
You're saying 14 hours later the boat's still sinking?
There's
Yeah, it's still
no
actively
lights.
sinking. And
Where
this
are
is
the
you
ships?
need to dive in. So what happens on these boats is time is of the essence. Of course, the
And
golden hour
helicopters.
was the first hour and a half that the boat even started listing, way in the morning at 9 a.m. when the captain was tell everyone to stay in their cabins. That was golden hour. Almost everyone could have been saved had they just gotten to the deck. They would have been saved, okay? Now, the next golden time was considered the next 72 hours because there's actually a phenomenon that's quite common where there's air pockets
There
inside
you
What did I
go.
just
boats.
say?
So these divers need to go in and get these people inside of these air pockets. So if you're in a room where no water has seeped in, which is sometimes possible, you're alive. You have about 72 hours. So these divers need to get down there and hope that there's a lot of air pockets.
Yeah. Even if there's one person, they
That's
should be doing everything. Yes.
This is how still and calm the water was. Do you see how it's dark? Where are all the Coast Guard vessels? Where are the divers? This should be lit up like a
In the
command
divers'
center.
defense,
This
they
should be lit
wanted
up
to
like the
be
4th of
there.
July.
They did.
This
They
is what it
wanted to
looked
go
like.
in.
Just it's the most peaceful water. There's no waves really.
It's so dark.
Nothing. No one's out there. During press conferences, the Coast Guard made it seem like it is pure chaos out there with our rescue efforts. We've got how many ships, how many people?
None.
Oh, you guys, South Korea, just you wait.
You don't
Coast
even
Guard's
have a
got
helicopter
you.
out there.
This is what it looked like. They said the water was as calm as a lake. There wasn't a single wave, but nothing was being done. You could still see the ferry. It hadn't.
But
fully
first, they need to
capsized
have the
yet.
Coast
There were
Guard's
no
ramen.
rescue efforts.
Absolutely.
I mean, imagine the anger of the parents seeing that, and they can't do anything for their children. They were yelling at their boat to the Coast Guard, "Do something!" They screamed, "They're alive! They're alive! You have to rescue them!" The Coast Guard never responded. All they did was circle the Sewol ferry over and over.
What's their excuses now?
They said that they
Thank
had
you.
to like survey the area. That's like the thing that they constantly say in this whole tragedy is they needed to survey the conditions. They needed to
Are you
make sure
okay?
they could go in.
I don't get it. Who's in charge? I'm so confused
Every
about this.
Coast Guard official is saying a different thing, but all of them have the same message of we're doing everything we can. But nobody's doing anything.
Shit.
Okay, so
No
it sounds
kidding.
like there's someone from the top not letting them do something, right?
So it's speculated. It's not that they were not letting them do something,
Uh-huh.
but they had no idea how to do anything. The Korean Coast Guard was not trained for search and rescue.
They can
But
dive
the
in and
Navy
rescue people.
was.
So they're like, we're
the
probably going to
Marines
die.
were.
Uh-huh.
So
They were right there.
allegedly just telling the Blue House, whatever you're suggesting we do, we're not capable. We can't do it.
Then where's the capable people? Where's
yeah,
the...
but they didn't say we're not capable. They're like, conditions won't let us. The condition is too bad. The condition
Okay.
is too bad. So then I don't think South Korea would then go to the US and be like, hey, the condition is too bad. Y'all get in there. A lot of these politicians, it was like a balancing game. They want help, but their reputations depend on them not asking for help, whether it's from different departments in Korea, whether it's civilian rescue divers, whether it's the US Navy. They did not want to ask for help, but they themselves did not have the competency to do the search and rescue, but they couldn't admit to that. So they're all just like shifting blame around. So
But it
for
shouldn't
President
have
Park, I
mattered
imagine
when
it's
people's
embarrassing
lives
that
are
you
on the
don't
line
have
like
a team
that.
of qualified people to do search and rescue
Children's lives.
Children's
in your whole
lives.
nation. Like, imagine the U.S. Navy f***ed up this bad. You don't think America would be like, I guess we're not a cool, powerful nation. I guess we're ass. It's just a lot of like reputation control, and none of these Coast Guard officials wanted to be the one to do it because there's like 5 different Coast Guards. That's another huge problem. It's not like, oh, just U.S. Navy.
Okay.
Because then you have a top dog that's like, okay, well, if the president doesn't want to do anything, I gotta at least do something, right?
Uh-huh.
But there's like the Mokpo Coast Guard, the Coast Guard of the West Coast, the regular Coast Guard. There's so many people
Coast
involved that they're
Guards.
like, well, let's just see if they do something.
Why are they
This is
not?
why-
We don't want to.
Bystander
Because what if
effect.
we do it and we f it up? That it's on us. So we just wait.
We
Like,
won't
they
do
want
it.
to do something.
They can do it.
So they're all bystanders.
They're all bystanders.
Except for the civilians. Civilians are like, we'll do it.
Why do they not have a more organized Coast Guard
Uh,
of like the whole country?
Who knows? Honestly.
Is America just weird that way?
You know what? I don't know. If you guys know, let us know.
Because I'm like,
Well, even with us, we have like, you know,
Well,
the
I mean-
Texas Coast Guard, and we have
well,
specific
yes,
areas for the Coast Guard.
but
Like,
well,
I think
yes, but I mean they're still answerable to Washington as a whole.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And so that's what I mean when, like, obviously,
Well, they're answerable to the Blue House, but the Blue House ain't Blue Housing right now. So,
but I mean,
and they're like, we're not gonna do it. How about they do it? And the other guys
So-
are like, we're not gonna do it. They're gonna do it.
even with a unified Coast Guard, they'd still shrink responsibility like they did here.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They care more about their reputation and their careers.
Mhm.
Yeah, the parents are screaming, what are you doing? You need to do something. Get in the water. And they even screamed, I'm not saying this is easy work, but you need to at least show that you're trying. There are survivors in that ship. What is wrong with you? It's so heartbreaking because a dad on the boat tries to jump into the water and everyone tries to stop him.
I don't know. I don't want to watch it.
I don't want
And
to
what's
see
crazy about this is that the Coast Guard official documents report that they were doing underwater rescue efforts at that exact
When? Where? Show it or it didn't happen. Isn't that what you said?
Mm-hmm. I need receipts.
time that the parents are out there watching them.
Members?
There was no such thing. So
Very
how do your
relevant,
reports say
yes.
that you were doing intensive underwater rescue? They stated that they did rescue all night long, but all they did was get on a little boat and circle the capsizing ferry. At one point, one of the Coast Guards drives up close to it and just like knocks on the ferry. It's like, a
Are y'all
parent who
dead
saw that
yet?
said, I can't believe I was
They
inches away
knocked
from my
on it?
child
They
and all I
knocked
could
on
do is
the
helplessly
ferry.
watch him die. So the parents, the reporters on this boat that saw this, they saw the discrepancy of no actual rescue efforts being.
It was very clear that there was no actual, like, rescue attempts going on.
They knocked on the hall, like, everything okay in there? Y'all need anything?
Yeah.
Do you want some water? Like, seriously.
Hydration is very important, you
Stay
guys.
hydrated, kids.
Get some water.
You know? But that's the kind of stupid thing they're saying in this situation.
Yes, exactly. I wouldn't put it past them.
Right?
Done. They recorded videos of it, sent it to all the major news network. So the reporters on there were a lot of trusted reporters by parents. Did you know at first the parents were allowed a boat out there by the Coast Guard and it was filled to the brim with mainstream media news reporters? There wasn't enough room for parents.
What?
The parents forcibly like kicked them out. But just the disgust that these media reporters were like, well, I know that we said 2 seconds ago that we already rescued everyone, but like, can I go take some more pictures out there? So their trusted
What?
reporters went out with them and they sent all of these videos to mainstream major news networks.
News
Not a
Stoppa.
single one of them aired it. Not a
Oh.
single one of them
Why?
talked about the
Except for News
discrepancy
Stoppa.
because they were under President Park. President Park was known as a very, very fascinating woman who loved to bully reporters and mainstream news media. That was her thing.
So they're like, this makes her look bad, so we
I
can't
won't
post
say
it.
Yeah, because then we're going to be on her
I know.
list.
I know.
That was the very first day and night of rescue efforts. That's all they did. Nothing. I mean, they did nothing. The next day, April 17th, it doesn't get any better. There is still no control tower, no organized operation. Nobody has one person that they're really reporting to.
24
Even the
hours
president,
later.
President Park, she was MIA for 7 hours, the first 7 hours of the incident.
How
She
are
was
you
nowhere to be
MIA
found.
during a
We're
major
gonna get to it later.
crisis?
So the president and
were
the prime
also
minister, they
fighting
visit
the
the
urge to
area
say
in Chindo
something
Island
noodle.
where the parents are gathered. Apparently, a boatload of politicians, lawmakers, and parents had gone out on a boat to go visit the Coast Guard, and parents were disgusted. I wish I was eloquent. I wish I could describe to you what
More ramen? More ramen, parents? Do you care for some of our gourmet ramen here on our lovely Coast Guard vessel
Yeah, I
while
mean,
your children are drowning?
your children are drowning or more likely dead at
Yeah,
this point.
at this
but
point,
do you
you're
want
dead. Do you want some ramen?
What
Water?
is
do,
this
do you want?
reaction?
How do you take your water? Do you like spring water or do you want it sparkling? Fizzy water.
Fizzy. That's the same thing as sparkling.
Drowning and hungry, yes.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god. Now, I don't know if they actually offered any of the parents ramen, but we're just,
We
rolling
offered
with
the
ramen.
divers ramen. I mean, I don't see why not.
kind of emotion that must have been. But the parents said they stood there and they watched the Coast Guard point at maps. They watched the politicians in suits go, It was like watching people pretend
like
to
a
do a
play.
job. It was like watching a skit. They felt
I
like they
just
were
said
losing their
that.
minds. The Coast Guard is saying things that they know are not true. Like, we worked so hard last night to do underwater rescue. They're
Where?
pointing at random maps, pointing at
Where be the
pictures
ships
of
and
inside the Sewol
submarines and
ferry.
submarines and the divers.
Parents get out onto the dock of the Coast Guard vessel and they see divers go under the surface of the water, kind of like flap around for 5 minutes and then come back out. They said it's like a sick joke. Like everyone's pretending. Like I imagine I would want to shake someone by their shoulders. Like, hello? Can you wake up? Like there's people dying. The parents decide that they can't trust anyone, so they start their own task forces and have coordinated group chats to relay information in a clean and orderly fashion. They were more
Good for
informed
the
than the Coast Guard.
parents.
One parent actually confronts a government official who tells him, "We were doing rescues all night." The parent gets in his face and says, "Stop lying and manipulating the news and look me in the eye and tell me you were doing rescues all night."
I bet he
The
did.
government official seems shocked and tries to grab his phone and call someone like, we were. The government officials actually seem shocked that the parents have such up-to-date information. I guess they didn't think that the parents would be that coordinated. Like,
But
parents
that's
would call
their
them out for every
kids.
single discrepancy, and they were
Like-
shocked. And every single
The second something goes wrong with your kid or your kid goes missing or, you know, something horrible happens, as a parent, you go into detective mode to figure out how to get your kid back, what happened to your kid, who did what to your kid, that sort of thing, you know?
Exactly.
As a parent, this makes sense. I'm not a parent, but, you know.
No, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so there was a little 12-year-old girl in 1993. A man, she's having a slumber party at her house. This is out in California. She's having a slumber party in her house, and a man comes into the house where her and her 3 friends are. Well, her 2 friends are.
I know this one.
And he takes her. Leaves the 2 friends. And, I mean, police are called just minutes after it happens.
Right.
And, later on, they started a foundation. But, like, when you're talking about regulation changes, this guy who kidnaps her takes her and is in another county. And his car got stuck on somebody's private property. And they believe that she was already gone by then, and he stashed her. But see, here's the thing. By this point, they already know in the other county that this child is missing. But there is not a unified radio signal. They started a foundation, and that foundation now helps organize other parents whose kids go missing. You can contact them, and they will help you with missing person flyers. They will help you get organized. They did eventually catch the guy. They didn't have a unified channel that all of the police in that area could hear to get the APB, be on the lookout for this guy, this little girl is missing. Because they had the eyewitnesses of the 2 little girls, the other 2 girls.
Yes.
You know how organized parents can get.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm...
Okay.
But one of them has the same reaction. They're saying something so confidently. We rescued this many people. Oh, this is what we've been doing. The parent confronts them with their lies. They all grab their phone and call someone. One of the parent literally goes, "Why are you lying to me? We have our parents on a boat out there. I just talked to them. That is a blatant lie." The government official goes, and they were at the Coast Guard boat? Oh, and he grabs his phone. "Oh, yeah, 여보세요."
Despicable.
Yeah.
Wow.
Despicable. I mean...
I don't want to watch
Now,
that.
at that moment, the prime minister shows up at the Chindo gym, and he's second in charge to the president in this country. I guess nobody informed him that the parents are not in the dark on all of this, that the parents are not going to be like, "Thank you, Prime Minister, for your efforts all night long." Because I think he walked in expecting some things and questions, but instead he was chased down and had water bottles thrown at his face. Open water bottles, which I think is symbolic in hindsight.
Here,
In the
Prime
end,
Minister,
police
have some
protected
water.
him and escorted him out. President
I
Park
don't know
Geun-hye also
who
visited with this whole
chose to
entourage
do
of
that,
security and
but good on
politicians.
them.
Parents were a bit more receptive to her because at the end of the day, this is the most powerful person in the nation. If anyone is going to help them, it's going to be her. So even if they hate her. But they were let down once more. She stated, "I just went to the rescue team, and I want to assure you guys all the government mobilized all resources and personnel to retrieve the victims." The Coast Guard chief also goes up next to the president and claims that he has sent 500 divers to the rescue. The parents know that this is a blatant lie. They are enraged. They
Should have
start
thrown ramen
screaming at the
bowls.
chief of the Coast Guard.
Ramen
And side
bowls,
note,
yes.
there's video of this, and President Park doesn't even seem surprised that the parents are screaming at his lies, almost as if she knows very well herself that those are blatant lies. Because I imagine...
Okay, so the gaslighter is just gaslighting all over the place.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, we can see you are clearly lying. No, I'm not.
Right.
Why? No. I'm sorry. But, the sky is clearly green.
Yeah, I mean,
that's-
are you stupid?
I don't know why you think the sky is blue. That is clearly green. What are you, colorblind?
Yeah, did you
know?
not learn your colors in
Right,
kindergarten?
right. I'm sorry. I just need to joke now and then while listening to these. No wonder you quit halfway through.
I did. I haven't made it this far.
Oh, so this is blind for her,
This is
guys.
blind now for me.
If I'm the president and my chief just lied to me, I'd be like, why are they booing that? But she looks like she was expecting it. Family said they were straight up stunned at the blatant
She
lies that were
always
being
gave him
shoved
a
in their
side eye,
face.
though.
It was unbelievable. Also, Parkani starts using this as an opportunity to say that nobody cares about. Like, their kids are still out there. They want rescue teams. And she states, so what we're going to do with this is this is an opportunity to conduct a thorough investigation on the cause of the accident and severely punish those involved. That's not what anyone is talking about right now.
You do that after.
That was the whole
But
second
this
day of
is
the rescue.
currently happening.
The second most valuable day. That's how it went. The third
about we
day,
talk about
April
rescue?
18th, a lot of developments took place and none of them were good. The Sewol ferry was now fully submerged. Parents went out and they couldn't see the boat anymore and they cried. Government also let a private company step in for rescue efforts. A company called Undyne started to lead the rescue attempts, but it was more of a recovery attempt. It was like a half rescue, half recovery. So there's still a chance that you can live 72 hours in an air pocket, but it was guesstimated that most of the bodies being retrieved would be dead, so it'd be a recovery attempt. Now, they sucked. Undyne sucked so bad. I think that this was just like a government
cannot
contract
catch
bid
a
that won.
break.
I don't even understand how they were in control of this. Now, the idea from the get-go was
It's
the
a
Coast Guard
perfect
or
storm of
someone, since
bullshit.
the Coast Guard is useless, would inject air into this Sewol ferry. This is going to help with multiple things. It would hopefully improve its buoyancy, and this is very important because if the boat is fully submerged in water, it's going to start sinking, and
Yeah.
divers cannot be in there when it's sinking to the bottom.
Right.
So they need it to somewhat still be near the surface of the water, makes it easier for rescue or recovery.
Right.
And if there is human life, injecting air could help those air pockets survive longer. That's
Well,
what
that's
Undyne
good.
was here to do. The Coast Guard couldn't do it clearly, so Undyne is here. They should have done this first thing
What's the
when rescue
problem?
started, but the Coast Guard
besides
didn't have the
that?
tools. So on the third day, they're like, we're bringing in a private sector. Okay, we're bringing in the private sector. Undyne's gonna do this, and Undyne comes in with these massive air compressors. They're old. They're industrial use, not compatible with human life.
What?
Meaning, if you injected this into a room, you'd probably kill the people in the room.
What?
The air is like auto gas air, and they're super old and outdated. I mean, what? But Undyne Marine shows up with these compressors, like with their full chest. They're like, yeah, these are the ones. Like, are you not even ashamed? Not only do they not have the proper equipment, but they also don't have the experience.
We're not even looking to rescue anybody on this
If
ship.
there was anybody still alive, they're gonna fucking kill them?
Yeah, basically.
I'm sorry, I'm dropping the
would it
F-bomb a lot.
That's okay. Would it poison
It's okay.
the air?
She said it was basically like auto. So it's basically like carbon dioxide.
We would poison
Or carbon
the air.
monoxide. It's like carbon monoxide.
They would poison the air, and the people
Yeah.
couldn't breathe it, or else they would.
But did the government sink the ship?
At this point, I would believe it.
Was there some rival's kid at the school?
You know what? It's so suspicious, but I can't wrap my head around why. Just why? This whole episode.
What
is
in
like,
the
why?
Hunger Games?
Why?
The U.S. Navy was nearby and offered their assistance once more. They said, we have new compressors, and we also have qualified professionals that utilize these compressors and have done rescue efforts such as this one.
Wait, so the
But
naval
they have
ship...
new ones that won't kill the people.
Yeah, so the Navy is like, hey, we're still here. We can do this.
We can give air. Give people more time to survive. And dive in there and get whoever survived.
They're like, we can still do this. We can still help you.
Wow, just wow. And we're gonna say no, aren't we?
They're gonna say no.
We're gonna say no.
They're gonna say no because fuck them kids.
This is so hurtful.
Okay.
They were denied. South Korea said, thank you though. But no. This day also marked the first discovery or recovery of bodies. 3 bodies were recovered by civilian divers, but mainstream media said all of it was due to Undyne. Undyne recovered these bodies. And
now we're with the civilian divers. Now I'm guessing the civilian divers are over here like, okay, the Coast Guard is useless.
Undyne is taking because she just said that the civilian divers recovered 3 bodies, but all the credit went to Undyne. Went to this private sector as a good job. You're recovering bodies.
Good job. But the private shit.
So mad because these civilian divers gave up a lot to help. They were not part of the Navy or the Coast Guard. They were moms and dads, corporate employees, professional divers in other industries. They were stay-at-home parents. The only thing that these divers had in common was that they liked to dive, they were good at it, and they wanted to help people.
They wanted to
so
save
they
some
left
kids.
their homes and their families to drive to this southern part of Korea to do the most important dive of their lives. Many of these civilian divers would end up permanently injured, paralyzed, traumatized, depressed, and some would even lose their lives because of this dive. They told each other, minimize shock when you're down there. Shock is no good for anyone. The divers all made a pact to not look the students in the eye. Because once you do that, you will never be the same, and it will make it harder for you to go back down underwater. They talked about how it was the hardest thing. The ones that drowned, they would have to recover their bodies, right? So their families could put them to rest. But there was so much debris in the water, because think about this big ship. There's so much things falling apart. Walls were collapsing, and the hallways became narrower than your shoulder width.
Because of pressure.
A lot of them had to squeeze through hallways. Bad weather delayed the use of a diving bell, so they had to use these super flimsy, flexible air hoses. But if they're twisting and turning in there, it could easily snap, break, or it could be folded to a point where they're not getting air anymore. It could get caught in things. It was very, very dangerous. They had to go down in teams of 3, and they would never forget the things they saw. There were bodies in life jackets floating around in the ship now, and the divers had to reach up, grab the bodies, and hug them so that they wouldn't keep floating up. They would find a window that they could break and get rid of all glass and debris. Then they would carefully push the body through the open window so that they could float to the surface. If a body was found without a life jacket, 2 divers. One diver would have to wrap their arms around this dead body, and the second diver would have to pull them through a rope to the surface. The divers said they found many of the students hugging each other, holding each other, or tied together. They said how hard it must have been for those kids. With the cold water rushing in and the darkness coming over them, I thought to myself, why did I even offer to volunteer with this if I can't even save one life? Most of the students had broken fingers. They tried till their very last moment to break the doors or windows to escape, breaking their fingers in the process. After seeing this, a lot of divers would never be the same. Kim Sang-ul, one of the civilian divers, said he was at home when he watched the news, and his diver buddies called him up and was like, you need to get here now. We need to save some kids. So he drove hours from his house in Sewol to the southern coast. He spent 2 months away from his family, risking his life to squeeze into these small openings, these dangerous conditions, to find bodies. They worked in 3-hour shifts.
He did it for 2 months?
2 months. 3 hours of rest, 3 hours of diving, 3 hours of rest. But like the other divers, he was having a hard time resting no matter how exhausted he was. The stress of the dives wrecked his body. The anxiety wrecked his body. Finding these water-bloated corpses of children, He said he could never get that image out of his mind, and he had nightmares anytime he closed his eyes. He said, we were touching each of these children with our bare hands as we brought them up. Even now, I can't hold my wife or children. I can't stand skin.
Oh my gosh.
In addition to the psychological trauma he has, he suffered a shoulder injury that needed surgery. So while he was diving, a luggage compartment in the Sewol broke open and massive luggage tumbled straight onto his shoulder. He had to get surgery, and he says he drinks every day now. He just drinks because it's his medicine.
The government didn't pay for his surgery. And
well, they might have better health care than us.
He had no help.
They're just fucked up for life now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 100%. The trauma of that.
Because if they had just been allowed to go in when they wanted to go in,
they could have saved so many people.
If they had just said, okay, everybody, put on life vests and go up to the deck, please. Because so many more people could have been saved.
In the end, his biggest regret isn't even volunteering. His biggest regret was getting there too late. He said, I couldn't even save one person. Many of the civilian volunteers, they all went through so much. So 43-year-old Kim Kwan-ong, he helped bring back 25 bodies. At one point, he lost consciousness during a dive, got swept away in the current, was saved, had to go to the ER for treatment. He stayed in the hospital for 3 days. The minute he got back out, he was back in the water. He went into places where the Coast Guard weren't even attempting to go, not even pretending like they were going to go. He went to places the Coast Guard deemed too dangerous, and he brought back children in his arms. He said, the victims were tangled together in their utter terror, and I prayed and cradled each one of them as I brought them up. The divers did their best while the country did nothing. The country did nothing, especially for the divers. Do you know what the divers got in exchange for their contribution?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Okay,
Trauma?
his only thing that he got, the only reason he did this was for the families of the victims, to give them closure and to do right by the children of the nation. But his body was wrecked. He cannot dive anymore. He has mounting hospital bills. He has paralysis in his left thigh. The government refused to deem the 39 injured civilian divers during the search operations as wounded by righteous causes, which would allow them to get health benefits and not have medical bills. In fact, the government actually turned their back on volunteer divers. They tried to charge a few of them for negligence when a diver died during a mission. They said, well, it's because of you other divers didn't check his equipment. But the Coast Guard was never held accountable. Divers had to go to court to explain.
I'm sorry. We took our volunteers to court for helping do a job that you are paid to do and refuse to do?
Evidently.
I am not responsible for another diver's death.
That was the thing that pissed me off most. Clearly, it was retaliation for showing the government is useless.
Yeah, no kidding.
I am just volunteering to save bodies. The divers that all tried while the Coast Guard did nothing, they were being used and abused. In 2015, Kim testified about the trauma that he suffered from handling all the dead bodies during the rescue efforts. He said he cannot forget it. He will never forget it. And in 2017, he took his own life.
Yep.
His final text to his loved ones were, I'll see you in a better place in the next life. I'm sorry. So you're mad, I'm mad, okay? Let's all be mad at someone. And there's a whole lot of people to be mad at in this case.
Who am I mad at?
Chonghaejin Ferry Company, the Coast Guard, the former president, and mainstream media.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Chonghaejin Company first. The Ferry Company, this is the connection to the last episode if you listen to it. And the Ferry Company's sick obsession with overloading the cargo on their ferries. So this particular ferry, the Sewol, had a capacity of holding 90 vehicles.
Apparently we need to watch another episode.
Apparently.
Okay, continue.
On that day, there were 124 cars and 56 trucks.
Wow.
None of them were properly secured. None of them were even tied down. They were just driven onto the cargo port and just left.
We had
on park.
140
They also took in
cars.
more cargo than allowed for that size of a boat. Their maximum cargo hold is 987 tons, but they took in 1,157 tons. Again, none of which was tied down.
Okay.
Do we
so
know
we were
why the
way
person
beyond the
at the
weight
beginning
limit.
turned the boat so much? 15 degrees?
Unclear to this day. We think it's incompetence. Just straight up was like trying to do 5, but turn 15 because it's manual steering. And I'll tell you why we think it's incompetence, because no one was trained. Like, none of the crews were trained. Oh, and side note, not all big boats are like that. Many big boats can turn at even higher degrees and be fine. But this specific boat, it was like a industry known thing between this company that this boat can only turn 5 degrees because it's unbalanced. It's not a universal boat thing. It's like this boat can only turn 5 degrees. Now, it's
Is
not
it
good
water
to
ballast?
do a lot of degrees of turns, but still, this is crazy. The boat starts leaning to the left, which causes all the cargo and all the cars to slam to the left, which starts leaking in tons of water. Now, remember the ballast water that I was talking about? We have some exact measurements here. Like I said, it serves a very important purpose. It keeps the center of gravity low. But there is another thing that it does. So it's actually compartmentalized the water. It's not just like one big water tub. It's like you have the left tub and the right tub, and I'm simplifying it. And then in between these two tubs, you have these pumps. So what happens is if the boat starts leaning to the left, you start pumping this water to the right tub, okay, to balance it out. The pumps were broken. That is, I can't even describe to you how bad that is. The pumps were broken, and not only that, there's like a mathematical equation.
So we couldn't even balance
even if
it
they
out.
had water, they couldn't have balanced it.
Because the pumps were broken.
It's just like everything about, like, I think it's bad.
And then it gets worse.
It's like Sunrise on the Reaping.
In case you didn't know, we just finished that
We
book.
did just finish that
It
book.
just, you think it's bad, and then it just gets worse.
Yeah.
And worse.
And worse.
And worse.
And worse, and you're wondering, why am I reading this?
And exactly. Or watching this.
Or why am I watching this? And the absolute terror that those kids went through, and the parents trying, and the divers, and
I just don't understand how everybody could be so empathetic. Not apathetic. Thank you. Empathetic is the opposite. I don't understand how people can be so apathetic in this situation.
Not only that, there's like a mathematical equation to figure out how much ballast water is needed to offset the cargo weight. Typically, it's around the 2 times mark, meaning you need double the water for the cargo. So if there's 100 pounds of water, you can only have 50 pounds of cargo.
Okay.
Okay? In this case, the Sewol was carrying about 580 tons of ballast water. For the amount of cargo they had, they needed 2,000 tons of ballast water. They had a fourth.
Yeah, so it's completely off.
So off. And that's what they started
So
with.
they were definitely over their base
The crew actually
capacity.
pumped out hundreds of tons of water from the bottom to accommodate additional cargo when they were loading.
Oh.
And as the boat goes, you actually lose more ballast,
So we
like
just
water, because
let more of
part
it
of that
go.
compartment is fuel. So as your boat is going, you lose fuel because you're using the fuel. So it becomes lighter. That's why you need extra water. So let's work our way up the food chain. The first people at fault were the captain and the crew. Not all the crew, but many members of the crew. Crewmates were investigated for their abysmal handling of the evacuation,
You
and
mean
one
just
crewmate in
leaving?
particular was told verbatim by authorities, remember? To go tell everyone to put on a life jacket.
And then they didn't do
Yeah.
it.
Well, he didn't do it. He was just like, oh yeah, I told them. But he just walked around the deck and was like, okay, yeah. What's crazier is that all the crew members that were on the bridge with the captain, they all left with him. They were some of the first to be rescued. But that also meant nobody else was on the bridge anymore to keep open communication with rescue efforts. So them leaving the boat wasn't just bad that they were abandoning the boat, but there was no one to communicate with them on the boat. So all these Coast Guards are like, we're trying to talk to people on the boat, but like nobody's on the boat. Because you guys are all here. That's cool.
But they
A
didn't
former
know
U.S.
because they
Coast Guard
just
investigator
assumed that
believes
they were
if those
regular.
announcements of every passenger to stay in their cabin were not made, the passengers most likely, just human nature, would have gone to the deck to see what was going on. Then they would have become easily visible and more easily accessible to rescuers. Now, of course, it's heavily discussed and speculated how much of this announcement played a role in the deaths. Passenger Ku, a survivor, said that the passengers were trapped inside by windows that were very hard to break. He said he actually wanted to escape earlier, but those nonstop announcements kept telling him to stay put. He said the rescue was horrendous. We were all wearing life jackets. We all had time. If people had jumped into the water, they could have been rescued from the water.
Yeah.
Another survivor
makes
said,
sense.
the announcement told us to stay put, but the ship was already sinking. There were a lot of students who didn't get out of the ship in time because of those announcements. Okay, fine. So the captain and these crew members, minus a few of the hero crew members, they are horrendous, but how do they f up so majorly? Like, that doesn't even make sense. How do you even not have a loose plan on what to do in situations like this? That brings us to the company that owns the Sewol Ferry, Chongjin Marine Company.
Yeah, tell us.
Chongjin Marine is like a different kind of evil, okay? This is in connection with our last episode. Chongjin's company's biggest shareholders are owned by another company that is controlled by a billionaire church leader founder, Yoo Byung-eun's two sons.
What, you know who this is?
No, I don't know who it is. I just heard church leader.
Oh, church leader. Okay. Apparently we need to watch a whole nother episode.
This guy just looks like Skeevy.
Yes.
Like this guy right
that
here.
That one has such a kind face to be so evil. Like, what the heck?
This guy, I don't know. This guy.
Yeah.
This guy just... he looks like he would have a mugshot.
That's not the best picture of him.
It's really not. Like, you look at the picture of his father up here, and the picture of his brother, and then you have him. It's like, this is literally like school picture, mugshot.
Yeah, they could have chosen a better picture.
Maybe this is the best picture that exists.
Maybe you're just not photogenic. I get it. I'm not either. I don't know how you're evil, but...
I have so many pictures of her with her hand up because she doesn't like her picture taken.
I don't, no.
I actually think you are really quite photogenic because you're very pretty.
I think you are a liar because I don't think I am photogenic at all. But
I think you're very photogenic and I think you're very pretty.
You can say it, but I'm going to keep saying it.
Okay, well, I still think you're pretty.
Okay, well, I still don't think I like my photo being taken because I don't think it captures me very well and I don't like how I look in them.
Okay, well, no photos aside. You're still pretty.
Okay.
Alright.
Sons. And in recent years, it was discovered that the Yu family received a total of at least $3.8 million from the ferry company. They got paid out, like about $4 million from this ferry company. And you're like, okay, that's great, right? That means the ferry company is doing well. No, the ferry company was in financial ruins. The year before the sinking, they reported a loss of $800,000 that year.
That's a lot.
They were cutting down on spending because the bottom line wasn't making sense. And you know where they were cutting down on spending? It was not to give their shareholders money. It was in the training and safety department of employees and new hires.
Of course it was.
Prosecutors discovered that so much money was being funneled to the billionaire family, nothing was left for the actual company. Nothing was left to train the employees. The company was so starved of funds that they spent only $2 on the safety training for the Sewol's crew members.
$2?
You get hired, the company spends $2 to train you. And do you know what that money was spent on?
What?
It was not an actual training. The $2 was spent to buy a fake paper certificate that said you are now qualified to be a crew member. You have done your safety courses. Life jackets, life rafts were left uninspected from the 90s. And the life jackets weren't even stored where they were supposed to be, which is on the upper decks or near evacuation points. They were stored in the passenger cabins. Crew members who worked for the company admitted in interviews they would have had no clue.
Could you imagine if I didn't have to take my safety protocol every year wherever I worked and they could just give me a paper certificate that said I watched the video and I took all the tests?
Like, I don't know, 50 to 100
What would
bucks?
happen if you walked into a CPR class and they were like, you don't need to know how to do CPR, here's your certificate.
Okay, but you know you can like, oh cool, you can like speed through the videos and ignore the videos.
You're a very bad person.
I didn't do that. I didn't do that. I'm just saying that it allowed you
to do that.
But
that. You still had to take the test.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You still had to take the test. Oh my gosh.
The mouse is right there.
What to do in case of an emergency. They've never had an evacuation training or a drill. To put it in perspective how horrendous that is,
drills?
the U.S. Coast Guard regulations require passenger vessels to hold an abandoned ship drill and fire drill every single week. And it's not even like a hee-hee-ha-ha we did it moment. You have to lower a lifeboat onto the water and start the engine of that lifeboat.
Like, it's required by law.
So it's a full-scale drill.
To do it twice a year.
Clearly, the Sewol did not do this, and Korean Coast Guards never regulated or followed up to any of the drills or training. But that still doesn't explain why the ship sank. Well, we have the overloading
Tornado,
of the cargo,
fire,
we have the ballast water, but there's actually more.
Twice a year.
All of that is making the balance of this boat just unstable, okay? It's becoming more and more top-heavy. The center of the gravity...
No, I was just saying that they didn't even do any drills or training, and I'm saying by
90s.
Law, in schools... Because that's where my reference is.
Yeah,
you have to do it twice a year.
I remember fire drills. I do remember the occasional, tornado drill.
Yeah, you have to do them twice a year.
Yeah. And obviously, when I was in school, other types of things were not a thing when I was in school. But you, as a teacher... Maybe they overstocked the ramen that they used to bribe the Coast Guard.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe there was a lot of ramen on those cargo trucks.
No kidding.
Sickening.
Is not good right now, but it was worse because Chung and Jin bought the Sewol ferry from another company and modified it and added 2 more levels on top to accommodate passenger cabins, which would bring in more money for them, raising up the center of gravity even more, making it extra top heavy, which you don't want. They also underwent major renovations to create an art gallery.
What?
Where you guessed it, they housed Mr. Yoo Byung-eun's art, or should I say Ahe's art, that he would sell to them at inflated prices.
In the boat?
In the boat. There was an art gallery with, also more weight was added because they added these marble slabs, thick marble slabs to showcase
way over the weight capacity.
And the company knew that what they were doing was dangerous. You can't even act like they were ignorant because it was discovered that between 2003 and 2011.
Oh my God. How fucking egotistical. We're going to put an art gallery of my art.
With marble slabs No.
Chung and-jin had 5 crashes prior to the sinking of the Sewol ferry.
5?
It was even recommended that their license be suspended or revoked, but that never happened. They actually purchased more ferries after 2011. They were also asked in 2003 to stop using the Mangol channel because you don't know what you're doing in there. You guys were in an accident in there. But they continued to use it because it shaves off a precious 7 miles on the trip to Jeju, which is 7 miles of fuel that they're saving on. Also in 2011, Cheonghaejin Company tried to board a passenger ferry, I think in the Han River, where it's during holiday season. The maximum capacity for that ferry was 200 people. They tried to board 500, and the only reason that a tragedy didn't occur is because passengers on board threatened to riot. They were like, no, you're not going to board that many people. This is insane. But that's how blatant they were in bending the rules and putting lives in danger.
Exactly, Noodle Man, because
complained that anytime they helped load or unload the Sewol, it would just roll around in the water. Company officials decided Sewol should be sold because of the complaints and the safety concerns, but that was vetoed by Mr. Billionaire Yoo Byung-eun himself. The executives instead started repeating the new mantra for the company, which was load as much cargo as possible. None of the cargo was ever chained or lashed down, meaning it would just smash around. The saddest part to all of this is that all the overloading of the Sewol, it brought in an extra $3 million. That is $10,000 for every passenger that died. That is it. $10,000 for a life. What's
Wow.
insane is that there's regulators for these things. You can't just start a maritime company and be like, okay, well, I'm going to do whatever I want on my boats. There's regulators. The Korean Register of Shipping was an agency that's responsible for these things. They never followed up or facilitated inspections. Thankfully, many of those inspectors and regulators are in prison.
They
So now,
should have been investigated.
we know that
and
Mr.
shut
Yu
down,
Billion's children, the
but
billionaire
that would
kids, if you guys
require
haven't
the
watched the last
authorities to
episode,
do their
they-
job.
Yeah, and she just said that the people who were supposed to do that are now in jail.
Yeah, I know. And that would require authorities to do their job,
Which clearly they couldn't because now they're in jail.
They were also in prison, and Mr. Yu, the billionaire, was found suspiciously dead in his apricot orchard.
So they did call. Okay, he's dead
In his
mysteriously, but
apricot
they did call
orchard.
him Mr. Yu. So I'm guessing it was a typo.
Yeah.
During the nationwide hunt for him, immediately after this.
Oh, that was the time.
Yes. Like, right after this, everyone was like, what the hell is going on with Chonghaejin? They're like, who owns Chonghaejin? Oh, the major shareholder is this random company. Well, who owns that company? There was a manhunt. Now, it is speculated, and I
Okay,
think
we
all
need
these
to
people
watch a
should
new
be in jail, by
episode.
the way. But it is speculated that the manhunt for them was a very smart tactic for the President Park at the time, because she was putting a lot of heat on the family versus government response.
No,
She was saying, I mean,
putting
government
blame.
response was bad, but like, this is the reason it even sunk in the first place. Yeah, so the corruption and incompetence
I
does
mean,
not end
both
there.
can be true.
It's not exactly a red herring. It's just a herring.
Yeah.
That, yes, this herring is guilty, but also I'm a herring and I'm guilty.
What about the Coast Guard? I mean, I don't think I need to reiterate how badly they dropped the ball on this,
You
but it's
don't.
horrendous. Like,
We
they
were
should be
here.
ashamed to even wear a uniform. The first rescue vessel, Coast Guard vessel 123, they went to the ferry and they waited 20 minutes before they even rescued the captain. Because they're like, well, we got here, but we don't know what to do. So they just sat around until someone
Because
was like,
we
I
didn't
guess you
have
could
any
send a small
training
boat
either.
and try
Nobody
to rescue
has
someone.
training.
Do you see anyone? They're like, yeah, we see some people on the deck. They're like, okay. It was also revealed that the Coast Guard not only refused to rescue people essentially, but they made it harder for civilians or other nations to help. So when civilians came and they're like, I'm going to try to rescue people, the Coast Guard was like inspecting their stuff, looking at their stuff. Like, I don't think you shouldn't do that. Where's your license? You have a fishing license, or were you out here illegally?
You have a
fishing?
license?
I'm trying to save people. I'm trying to do your job. They're like the parking ticket police, and people are dying. They also were so bad. Eventually, once it was deemed that everyone was dead, the U.S. Navy and a lot of their professional divers were brought in to...
She did say...
Oh, wait. Now we're bringing in the Navy.
Yes, but she did say that the Coast Guard's main job was to make sure that people weren't illegally
Like, there weren't Chinese fishers.
fishing or
Yeah.
whatever, illegally fishing in their waters. And so it does make sense that they would be checking equipment and checking
Because
for a
that is
license.
the one thing they're trained to do.
Because that's what they know how to do.
Now the Navy's coming in.
Now the Navy.
Now they're letting the Navy come in.
recover a lot of the bodies that were hard to find. The U.S. Navy took one look at how the Korean Coast Guard was handling things and said, unless you fix this list of insanely abysmal conditions of safety, we are not sending a single American in there.
Good for
So the
them.
U.S. Navy and professional divers were finally, after like months, asked to come in and rescue some not rescue, but recover bodies. And the U.S. said, okay, fine, we'll go take a look. The Navy looks around where the ferry had sank. They have a list of the most egregious safety violations that they'd ever seen. And they're like, we are not sending a single American into the water unless you fix all of this first. And the Korean Coast Guard was like, then I guess we'll just figure it out ourselves. They just
What?
refused to make it safe for anyone to dive. It was bizarre. The U.S. Navy was like, this is
And
bizarre.
meanwhile, the civilians are diving in these unsafe
Uh-huh,
conditions
uh-huh.
and getting injured and hurt.
Uh-huh. And I cannot stress this enough. The U.S. Navy didn't need to come in to retrieve bodies if they had just used the U.S. Navy the first time with
Right.
the 1,000 Marines.
Yeah.
And the helicopters and the landing pad and all the actual all the actual training that this is what they're supposed to do.
Yeah. That's insane.
And yes, and the government wouldn't help the divers going into those conditions after that fact on top of it. And like the U.S. Navy's like, oh, excuse me, but these are not safe working conditions. You need to do something about this.
Honestly,
no, it's fine. This whole thing is insane. People dying, people illegally fishing. Oh, no. You are not going to be illegally fishing here. Are you kidding me?
Just how unprofessional and unsafe, and ultimately how annoying you're making this and impossible for people to even help you. Like, you can't do your job, but now you're making it impossible for...
No wonder that, I think it was the gym teacher, wasn't recovered for 3 years.
No kidding.
Me to do your job. Ridiculous. Now, another thing about the Coast Guard, remember the Mokpo Coast Guard where the first helicopter comes and saves someone, right? Well, another helicopter comes in to save people, and they don't really ever save people because he's just a helicopter driver. He actually asked the head chief of the Mokpo Coast Guard to like get in his helicopter so that they can save people. And the chief was like, oh, I'm really tired from last night's work, and I feel like the helicopter noise is going to give me a headache. So he just sent one of his officers who just circled around the ferry the whole time.
What?
And then once all of this starts getting leaked,
I'm sorry,
you know
I can't
what a lot
save
of these
people. I have a migraine.
entities do? They
Girl,
start to...
You live with chronic migraines.
That's not an excuse.
More than... You've lived with them for like 20 freaking years.
Yes.
You would still get in that damn helicopter.
I would, and I would still try to rescue people. If it were my job description. I mean, even if it weren't my job description, but, like, I can't fly a helicopter.
Deleting files, mass deleting files, and the Chindo authorities that were also involved, they actually went as far to delete all their CCTV footage from inside their government office building the day of the incident. So at first, only low-ranking officials and government officials were investigated and prosecuted. The families were enraged because, let's be real, in the hierarchical Korean society, you think this low-level intern is making the shots? Like, he's making the calls. He's like, no, we're not sending divers in. You think so? No, absolutely not. So they pushed, and in the end, President Park was facing so much heat, she announced a plan to break up and defund the Korean Coast Guard. She created a new department, but honestly, it's just a PR move. I'm sure most of the Coast Guard was moved to that new department, and the next president, President Moon, would just revive the Coast Guard in 2017, so nothing really changed. Many more arrests were made, more than 100...
There goes my theory of, they can make... This is a tragedy, but we can make it better. We can strengthen our regulations. We can make sure we have an open line of communication so that this sort of situation never happens.
You have to show empathy for that. They have yet to do that.
Yeah, I mean, they said in 2017 and nothing has changed.
Yeah.
So, never mind. I guess I'm wrong, guys. I had too much faith in humanity.
How dare you.
50 regulators, crew members, ship inspectors, and officials were indicted, including the captain of the Sewol ferry.
Oh,
he was charged with murder.
Good.
And he said, I bow my head, and I just thought if people were leaving the ferry without the proper equipment, they would drown or drift away in the water. So that's why he told them to stay put.
Why the don't you stay put then?
Yeah. Because he wasn't wearing a life vest.
I like the husband.
Why don't you stay put?
이런 지시를 받은 적이 있습니까?
You ordered to set a plan.
기억이 없습니다.
With that much guilt and also public hate and scrutiny and a criminal trial, I would rather have died on the boat. So I just think it's so fascinating that some people have such a strong will to live that you would rather kill people to live. Nobody...
We're making a new department, but we're bringing the same people, equipment, and protocols. Awesome, right?
No, because you're not making a new department. It's the same department with a new name.
What he had to say. In the end, he was found guilty of murder and sentenced to life imprisonment. He was later acquitted and received 36 years in prison instead.
What?
36?
Yeah. He was
How
saying...
do you acquit that?
He was saying, okay, everyone is shifting, even in the criminal trials, this is crazy. Everyone is shifting blame. So he's shifting the blame and saying, yes, I shouldn't have left the boat. I shouldn't have given these orders. But ultimately, everybody died because the Coast Guard didn't rescue them. The Coast Guard is saying everybody died ultimately because they were told to stay in their cabins. So this is what they're doing. I know. This is what they're... He looks so disgusted right now. This
only
is what
got 36 years.
Wow.
And he was acquitted. That is You know, I have no words for that. I really don't.
At least he got prison time.
36 years is not enough.
Yeah, but he looked old. He may not ever make it out.
I don't care. It's not enough for 350 students.
No, it's really not.
Like, just for that, I think he deserves another life sentence on top.
Like, just the audacity of these
Yeah.
things. So there were criminal
They all
charges
deserve a
levied
life
against
sentence just for the
399
audacity.
people, including the
Honestly.
imprisonment of 154 people. 6 survivors from Tanwon High School were subpoenaed for their testimony during the criminal proceedings, and they said, a ferry with about 300 passengers, most of them students, is sinking fast. But instead of staging full-out rescue efforts, the crew members are nowhere to be seen, and the Coast Guard is just watching from afar. 30 students lined up for the emergency exit.
It's just so
The rescue
sus.
teams
It's
didn't
like,
arrive,
why?
so we started jumping into the water. But eventually, the water got too close, and the emergency exit was no longer available to open. We were waiting to jump. We saw the Coast Guard within arm's reach. They were on the other side of that emergency exit. And we were screaming at them that we're right here, but they just watched. Parents were understandably infuriated with all of this, with all these people and entities, but there was still the problem of the missing bodies. So by the summer of 2014, more rescue teams were sent in, and bodies, first there were more found, and of course it was few and further in between. But at one point, a body was found in an area that the divers already claimed that they had searched multiple times. So let's say they said they searched room B on the 3rd floor. They said, we searched that like 10 times. And then a body was found by a rescue diver in room B on the 3rd floor. So of course it brings the question of competency of the recovery efforts yet again. Another body was found,
was no
a high school student
competency.
in a bathroom that had allegedly already been searched 13 times according to official records. So what the hell is going on here? 13 times it showed that it was searched by the Coast Guard. The distrust
I don't
was
know why I
only growing
went
stronger, and it's not just
a bathroom, because that's not what I meant to say. But I meant to say, like, how are you searching 13 times and you're not actually searching at all?
Like I said,
And
they're
then,
throwing
like,
numbers out there like
of course.
the lottery.
Like, it's the lottery. How are you doing it?
people, the divers that are losing the trust of the parents, but it's also the Coast Guard forensics teams.
Being an
so
idiot.
the way that they would do it is these Coast Guard divers would dive into each room of each level and they would collect a water sample. They would bring this water sample up and then collect another water sample at the surface of the water. They would then test these water samples, and I guess there's certain bacteria or something in the water they're looking for that indicates there are human
Body
remains
decant.
in that room. But if it's a match to the surface water, that means that there is no corpse in that area. So they said they checked it 13 times. The bathroom water was tested 2 to 3 times. And each time it showed that it was the same and consistent as the surface water. A volunteer diver found the girl in the bathroom. It is heavily implied that these Coast Guard divers were lazy and just collected 2 samples from the surface of the water and said one was from the bathroom down in the boat, one was from the surface water. Oh, they're a match. There's no body in there. We're doing so well.
You guys could see her
Nothing.
face
I
right
mean,
now.
nothing is going right.
Just,
The authorities
wow.
didn't get one thing right, and the dives were getting even more dangerous. And there are actually a lot of more deaths that are associated with this.
So we have civilians risking lives to return these bodies
And
to
they
their
can't even
families.
go in there for a water sample.
They can't even obtain a water sample. We're just lying at this point. and
Everybody
getting
is just
2
straight
water
up lying.
Yeah, exactly. This
That are not including like the 300 on board. A Navy officer was injured and passed away. An Undine Marine named Mr. Lee passed away during a dive, which I know that we talked badly about Undine, but that's the company, not the employee's problem.
Yeah.
He was actually diving when he just lost contact with everyone on surface. So his colleagues went into the water. He was found dead. Yeah, his air supply cords were tangled and he was unconscious without his diving equipment on. It's not really clear what happened. An x-ray of his chest
just
showed
took
no
our diving
irregularities, but a
equipment
scan
off.
showed that his skull was filled with air. Now, a few weeks later, another civilian diver passed away. July of 2014, a helicopter from rescue operations crashed, killing all 5 officers on board and injuring a high school student. There was another death linked to the sinking that shocked a lot of people. The vice principal of Tanwon High School, Vice Principal Kang, He was found hanging from a tree near Chindo Island. So this is the island where all the parents had gathered, and it said that he was the leader of this school trip. He was in charge of the kids' safety. He was rescued, but over 250 of his students were not. He wrote in his note that he feels guilty and he wants to take responsibility for what happened. He wrote that the trip was his idea, and he cannot live without knowing where his students are. He wrote in the letter that he wonders if he could still be their teacher on the...
The trip was something that was traditional. They did this every year. It was his idea, but like...
But he couldn't live with...
It wasn't his fault.
No, but guilt.
Yeah, no, I understand, but still...
That is so heartbreaking.
Yeah.
On top of, there's all this is freaking heartbreaking.
The other side. In death.
That
He
man
asked
felt
his
more
ashes
guilt
to
than
be
the
scattered
captain
around
who condemned those kids to sea.
No kidding.
Where the ferry went down. Now, the sad part is, before his death, a lot of parents took their anger out on him, and so did a lot of Korean news media outlets, like a lot of adults. But when he passed, students and survivors alike, they went to his memorial in uniform and paid their respects and said he was an ethics teacher. So I wonder if it was really hard for him. He was a good person and he really cared for students. I don't think anyone should be blaming him. Again, another instance where I feel like a child is sometimes more wise than an adult. After the memorial, the hearse carrying his body circled around the school one last time. He was survived by his wife and 3 children. At least 3 parents have taken their own lives after losing their children in the Sewol ferry. One of the fathers took his life on the 1-year anniversary of the Sewol ferry tragedy. Many families have completely disintegrated, divorced, fallen into addictions, financial distress. One mom said, "You just have to cry when it's hard. There's no way around it. No one, nothing can console you or help you. When I miss my son, I go lie in his bed and I hug his pillows and I smell his smell and I cry." Many families have left their children's room exactly the way it is, not touching a single thing, almost as if these students are going to walk in through their door with their backpack. Most families hate spring. April is like the best season in South Korea. They hate it. One victim's mom said her husband, the victim's father, has these intense nightmares. And she said, "My husband constantly has nightmares, kicking his leg, even grabbing me by the collar. And one night when I hugged him, he just let out these screams. And he cried like a baby. He just looked so lonely." Many siblings of victims fell to self-harm and depression. One sister has her birthday on April 19th, and for years, it was too hard, too painful for her to even celebrate. And for the first time, she asked her parents if they would like to join her for dinner for her birthday. So it's been very rough for these families, rescue personnel, but also the survivors. Survivors' guilt is a scary, scary thing. I think it's confusing. Like, how do you even process that type of emotion? There was a 71-year-old woman who was eating breakfast when she heard screaming. She saw people just sliding down the floor, so she grabbed a railing and saw everyone tumble like dominoes. She remembers going into shock, but this young man grabbed her arm and screamed, "Come on, hold on to me tightly." She was trying to let go and slide down with everyone because she was so exhausted. She's 71, but she's like, no, I can't hold on any longer. She said she was exhausted, but this young man never gave up on her and kept holding her arm. Aww. He grabbed her and pulled her up. He failed, so he pulled her up again, and this time it worked. He escorted her to the rescue boats, and she would not have made it out without him. She wanted to ask for his name, but it was so chaotic. He was just gone. Her 4 friends she was traveling with for like this
found each other.
Jeju trip, her 4 friends died. She suffered a broken back, and she said, "I'm grateful. I want to thank that young man. I want to buy him a meal or at least hold his hand or give him a hug. Like, what else can a lady like me do? But how could it be that an old woman like me survives and all these young people are still in there? It is such a shame."
Finally, an adult with empathy.
I know, right? It took an hour and 44 minutes. Oh, well, that's not true. We've had a couple of adults, like the teacher.
Yeah,
and,
but
ugh.
Civilians very early on realized that they were being lied to. So they tried to show their support to the parents with yellow ribbons. Even while news outlets are still lying, civilians tied yellow ribbons everywhere to show their support, to show parents, we know, and
So
we
it
are
was
supporting
this
you.
incident.
Since then, yellow ribbons have been used to symbolize mourning for the Sewol Ferry victims, but it's almost now become synonymous with skepticism against the government and standing up to corruption. A lot was exposed about high government officials when this case broke, like how President Park was unavailable for up to 7 hours during the initial incident. So not only was she unavailable,
the ribbons earlier while you were in the bathroom.
Okay.
But I thought that the reason that she was wearing this top with her ribbons in her hair. Now that's not a yellow ribbon, but I thought it was. Yeah, I thought it
may be.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if it was this one or if it was a different one, but I thought that might be why, that it was a very intentional thing. Yeah.
but her and her administration falsified schedule records to show that she was on official duties at the time, which she was not. Which, even if you're on official duties, I'm sorry, your nation's children are dying on a boat, get it together, it can wait. She just wasn't involved. I guess I don't know if she wasn't alerted, or I don't know if she wasn't making enough calls, so now all these officials are covering for her, or her administration is covering for her. Now, President Park's administration was also exposed for bullying and threatening reporters and news networks for reporting on the truth. They even indicted a Japanese reporter who shit on her for handling this tragedy in the way that she did, and Japan slammed South Korean prosecutors, and the chief cabinet secretary of Japan said, freedom of press should be respected, and that indictment was far out of the norms of the accepted wisdom in the international community. So it's clear. The president cares about her appearance domestically and, oddly, very much so internationally, and that's it. And when she decided she was sick of people calling her out for her vile, disgusting behavior, she said this about the Sewol tragedy. It's time to overcome the pains and hardship from the Sewol incident and move on to build a new South Korea. We cannot stay trapped in the sadness and frustrations that have gripped us for the past year.
You haven't even gotten all the bodies
At this
back.
point, bodies were still being recovered.
I just said that.
Not everyone has been put to rest yet. She was later impeached for corruption. This is a big part of it. Her ratings dropped drastically after this. And shamanism, oddly, were the reasons that she was impeached. We have a video on it, but anyway, not a great person.
Okay.
In the end, 9 bodies were still missing in the incident, and the parents stood by each other to make sure those victims came home to be laid to rest, which would ultimately lead to the Sewol being salvaged from the bottom of the seafloor, but it took a very long time to get there. The parents requested that the Sewol ferry be salvaged immediately because evidence, the bodies are intact, like, we need to do this, right? There are speculations that the government went out of their way to come up with a million reasons on why this was impossible. It's theorized that they were scared that the evidence would show incompetence. One big thing that got a lot of people mad was that out of 172 survivors, more than half of them were rescued by fishing boats and other civilians and or commercial boats that had nothing to do with the government. One survivor said, I wonder why the rescuers who first got to the ship didn't do anything about 100 or 200, I think, were trapped inside. They were just picking up the ones at the top. Now, can we talk about the salvaging of the ferry real quick? Okay, This is crazy. 2 months, I think it was like 2 months after the sinking of the ferry, 7 private companies brought in proposals. So this happens a lot with these sometimes natural disasters, sometimes national disasters. These private companies will bring in proposals, and it was 7 maritime companies that said, hey, we have a way to salvage the ferry. This is how we're going to do it. This is option A, this is option B, this is option C, and this is how much we would charge the government to do it. Thank you. That's our proposal. It's almost like a government bid. All these companies are trying to get this deal so that they can salvage the ferry. Now, one company in particular had a very unique plan. The problem with salvaging this ferry was not, oh, let's just lift it up by cranes and then bring it ashore. It's not like that. It's so complicated because you have bodies in there. You have evidence in there. You want to keep these bodies as intact as possible. So there's a lot that you're working with, and it's in the channel, the Mangor channel, so there's a lot. So their plan was to tilt the boat onto its side again, because right now it was like inverted. Tilt it to its side, crane it onto a floating vessel, and salvage it there. That was like their plan. The government reads this proposal like 2 months after the sinking. Everyone says, when are you going to salvage the boat? They said, we have to do tests. We have to find the perfect solution, you guys.
Never.
You don't understand because you don't know. But it's so hard. this is in the water. It's very, very sensitive issue. We need to make sure none of the evidence gets lost. We need to make sure the bodies are intact. So it's going to take some time. We need to do a lot of tests. A year later, the government comes out and says, after a year of that, we have amazing.
The same tests that they probably did to determine whether or not there was body in the water.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, those tests.
News. We have found the best solution. They take credit for the solution that they had on their desks 2 months after the sinking, and they pretty much copy that proposal word for word. And that was exposed by Newstapa.
Plagiarism.
Parents of victims gathered together in front of government buildings to stage a hunger strike, not for money, but for the truth. They just wanted answers on how something like this could have happened. For months, the country mourned with them. And there's a moving story about a father who ate nothing but water and salt for 46 days. The president still had some supporters, super conservatives, that came out to eat pizza and fried chicken in front of the parents who were hunger striking. I don't know why they defended the president. Like, that's cruel. Your mom or something. I don't know why anyone defends any politician, regardless of what their beliefs are, so vehemently.
Level of evil.
I mean, it's crazy. One parent stated, "I don't need money, compensation, or trauma therapy. I just need the truth, please. That's all." And he formally bowed in front of lawmakers, begging for them to help. Families of victims even shaved their heads in public in a demonstration. They just wanted to put their family members to rest, and the government just kept asking, "So you want compensation? No, we want you to find our family members." Finally, the ferry was salvaged 3 years later. There were 9 missing passengers at that point, and only partial remains would be found in the salvaging. Many of the victims were put to rest 1,000 days after the tragedy. But by the end of October 2018, 5 people are still missing. 2 16-year-old students, a 57-year-old teacher, a 48-year-old father, and the 7-year-old boy. Remember the older brother of the 6-year-old sister? They are still missing. The families of all the victims would receive approximately $177,000 for each victim lost, which is absolutely nothing. I mean, first of all, they didn't even want it in the first place, but it's absolutely nothing. 71 days after the Sewol sinking, survivors returned to school. And before the tragedy, the sophomore class of Tanwon had 325 students. Now there were 75 in that class. All 75.
Can you imagine?
How could you even?
Walking in, and there's like, you walk into. When I was 6 years old, there was this little boy. I was in a class of about 20, 25 kids. And, you don't know everybody in your class. I mean, you know them, but you don't really know them. Some kids you play with, some kids you don't. This little boy, in a family tragedy, he was run over by the family car. He was on the driveway. Mm-hmm. Okay? And this was honestly, like, really my first, like, holy crap, people die. Kids die. Mm-hmm. Okay, but, like, I remember walking in to my classroom and his desk, which I think he was, like a couple rows away from me, and then, like, or we had, like, tables or something, and he was, like, but, like, his little space just empty for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
And, like, it was such a weird feeling.
Take that times, like, 300.
Yeah. Take that times, yeah.
Your classroom is now just so empty.
And there may even be classrooms.
And everybody would be affected. Not, like the one kid, everybody would be affected.
Yeah, it was very sad.
Everybody is affected.
Were provided group therapy as part of the class time. 10 counselors were brought in to be readily available. And students at Tanwon said, "Every student here knows someone who has died or has gone missing." Like, just imagine the depth, like the web of trauma left behind. One student says, "Our school feels so empty now. It's not an environment where we can study. I wake up every morning hoping it's a lie, but it's not." And I will say that when tragedy does strike, Korea is a nation that at least the civilians come together. The government wow. But the civilians do come together.
Wow.
In,
That just summed up the whole thing. Thank you.
The civilians come together. The government, wow. That.
Yes.
in honor of the Sewol tragedy, all K-pop groups, every single one, stopped the release of all new music and promotions. The whole entertainment industry was at a standstill. Most industries in South Korea were at a standstill. There were no ads, no promotions for anything. And once the mourning period was over, BTS came back with a song called Spring Day, directly inspired by Sewol. The translated lyrics read, "I miss you even though I'm looking at your photo. Time is a cruel thing. I want to go to the other side of the earth holding your hand. How long do I have to wait? How many nights do I have to pass to see you, to meet you? Until spring day comes again, until the flowers bloom again. Please stay here a little longer." Another K-pop artist dedicated his concert to a fan that had purchased tickets to be there, but she passed on the Sewol ferry. Shin Young-jae, a four-man, finished and produced a song called You Whom I Love, and the song was written by one of the teenagers that passed on the Sewol. His name is Lee Da-eun, and he wanted to be an artist one day. He plays the guitar, he writes his own lyrics, and his idol, his role model in life was Shin Young-jae. After the Sewol tragedy, his parents reached out, just not really expecting anything, but he finished the song and performed it in honor of all the victims.
Aww.
The lyrics translated are, "To you who has suffered so much, you went through a lot, right? I want to hold you in my arms, and right now I hope you're dreaming sweet dreams. But we're sleepless at night thinking of you. I wish you could relax, but just know that I will always be here with you, right next to you." Many artists and idols wore yellow ribbons during performances to honor the victims. But I will end the very long video with this. A family member of one of the victims was asked, why do you think this happened? Why do you think the kids weren't saved? And he said, people ask that all the time. Why do you think they failed to protect the children? And I think above all, they just had no desire to protect the children. Golden time? All they did was lie. What are your thoughts on this case?
You couldn't have
stay
said
safe,
it better myself.
and I'll see you guys on Sunday.
Honestly.
How long do I have to wait?
Stop blinking!
There we go. She's beautiful.
Oh my god, guys! The song lyrics actually made me cry.
The music often is a way of healing
It is.
and therapy. So it's always interesting to see how music.
Do you remember when Sandy Hook?
Adjusts. Yeah.
Sandy Hook happened, and Pink came out with that song.
Yeah.
But it had absolutely nothing to do with. It was just timing.
It was
because she had actually written the song. I believe about a miscarriage.
Yeah.
That she had suffered, but it beamed me up.
Yeah.
And it just broke so many people.
But and music is a good way to connect everybody and to heal.
Yeah.
It's a good way to process emotions and process feelings and also spread the news about it, because then people are like, why would the writer write the song? And then they go and discover why and learn about it. So it's a good way to spread information as well.
The thing about a song is it can mean different things to different people. But when you write about something like that, you kind of know.
Yeah.
And I don't know, guys. I'm kind of trying not to cry over here because, this one was hard.
Yeah, it was very hard.
I just think about that. Okay, guys. I mean, the students, it was absolutely tragic, but that little 7-year-old boy
yeah,
who has never been found, and his parents are gone, and his little sister
is the only one that
survived, and 6 is so little. 7 is little.
Yeah.
But I mean, what that little girl will have to process, and why. I don't know why they couldn't do the same thing with the little boy, but like maybe the little girl got separated or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that broke me. Like everything else.
I mean, everything breaks.
Everything broke me, but that was like the last little bit. And then they played this. And then she's reading the song lyrics, and I'm like, oh shit.
Well, that was Rotten Mango's Sewol Ferry tragedy, and we'll probably see you for the next one. Hopefully, a little bit of a happier one. We'll see. Maybe we'll see what we will watch in the next one. So we'll see you guys for the next one.
I'm Missy.
I'm Monty.
And we'll see you for the next reacts.
Bye.